minutes. Okay.
Perfect.
You're on.
All right. Well, I think we'll get ready and start our pre-meeting for our February 11th meeting. And with that, Director Grover, I'll let you kind of review this thing unless you want me to go over it.
Nope, probably the first thing is just that Kanesville Crossing, but we want to check on, minutes. Wasn't there some minutes on there?
Sorry, yes, on the minutes, I did find, I apologize. There is one place where I think it was Casey's comment and not mine on I think it was on the November meeting.
Yeah, you
Hold on.
mentioned that, and sharing the vice thing. There was something there.
There, I found 2 errors as well.
Okay.
I didn't find that one, but mine were simple ones. The first one was roll call. They got Chair Edwards, just misspelling of his name. And it said that he stated all commissioners were present, but we had Tammy and Sarah who were not present, so. I
Okay,
think that was a mistake. So
All
simple.
right, perfect. And then the one that I thought that I marked up.
They're giving you credit for my bad dealings.
I think this was you. I think here on page 6 on the November 12th, the bottom paragraph where it says Commissioner Figueroa, I think that was you, Casey, but. Cause I don't remember sympathizing with anyone, in his family.
Yes, no, that was me. Yeah, that was my statement.
I mean, that's not something. It's not something that I regularly do. I will understand your opinion. I may not sympathize with it.
yeah, it doesn't sound like.
I might need to-
So are those both the 12th?
Those are the 12, yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Cause I wasn't here for the next meeting.
And then I didn't see anything on the 3rd or the 10th. Did anybody else?
Okay.
Okay.
They referred to me as a he instead of a she, but I really don't care.
You got your pronoun wrong.
Oh, I am not that sensitive pronoun. So.
I didn't send her pronouns, Sarah.
What's that?
I didn't send her pronouns. I just put your names down.
I compared that to S, but left off it. And I can't find it and I don't care. So
Okay.
I think that's gonna be fine.
All right. Okay. Thanks, for keeping us on track. Rachel. I appreciate that. Forgot about that. Okay, now I'll ask, let's see, it looks like the next item maybe, and Director, you want to say anything about it, or you want me to just turn that right over to Tammy?
So there was a few items on here in the chair and the vice chair meeting that we had some concerns about, and that was with the road width and the commercial area up front. Since that time, Tammy's visited with the developer, they've addressed the road width issues, so their needs are done in time. Commercial area, I'm gonna let Tammy talk about, so I'm gonna let her obviously talk about everything else, but those were a few of the primary concerns that came out of the chair and vice chair meeting. So Tammy, if you
Yeah.
wouldn't mind, you're okay, Chair Edwards. Sheriff Rivera, thank you, and I'm looking right at it.
I know you was staring right at it. You know what?
You want some sympathy?
See, it's habits, I'm used to you being.
The sad thing is, I didn't even catch on at first. I'm like, what's the?
Thank you, Brad.
And this is something you were concerned about, even though you weren't in the meeting.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Let me just kind of just orient you, 3,300 south, 3,500 west. This went through a rezone process back in 2022. Development agreement was reported in 2023. C1 and R3 zones, specifically R3A or attached, developers proposing 77 townhomes and a couple of commercial lots. And I wanted to bring your attention to a couple of things. Number one, the $5,000 per unit donation to the Parks District. In the county commission meeting, when the development agreement and the rezone went before them, the commissioners asked for half of that at plat recording and the other half at building permit. So that is how that's gonna go. So planning gets to keep track of one more thing as they submit building permits for these, but that was what was ultimately approved.
Say that again, Tammy, half
Yeah, so 5,000 per unit, so
building
25,
permit.
2,500 at building permit application.
And what was the reason for that the county commission gave?
I don't know if he just didn't want to wait everything up front. I'm not entirely sure what Commissioner Harvey's reasoning was.
I'll have to talk to him about that. I think that's the portation.
It was a
And when's the
curveball
other
at
half?
Steve, I will tell you that.
When's the other half?
So the first half is at plat recording, the other half is at building permit.
Yeah, why is that different than everybody else? I had an additional question,
Mhm.
with that same topic though.
Mhm.
There's no letter, and maybe you don't usually require, but there's no letter from the Parks District accepting that like we do with all the other
Mm,
entities. Is that something?
We could make that a condition.
yeah.
Wasn't it in the rezone though?
It
Cause it was a
I think so.
contingency on the rezone.
I think.
It's-
It doesn't play into this now,
Okay.
cause we can't ask for it at this stage, but at the legislative
It's
stage.
been a while. I
Okay.
think it
I
was
mean,
different.
thought maybe I
yeah.
would,
And also remember that this is time sensitive. They've only got how many months or how many years, Tammy, do you remember?
On
On
this one,
3
Three.
years,
3 years, that's right, because I kept saying it was 6, it's actually 3.
3 years.
That was motioned into it. And so they have a time frame for development on this project.
And that donation is in their development agreement,
okay.
so you know. Any other questions to this point, you guys?
I just have a question. What did they say
Yes.
about giving half when they recorded?
I'm sorry,
What did the developer say about giving half when they recorded?
I don't know that they had any comments. Steve Burton ran the rezone and I happened to be in the commission meeting. And it was a surprise to Steve when the commissioner made that requirement, when the commission made that requirement, so.
typically it's made at the recording.
All of it.
And I don't know, Rick, I don't know if the Parks District kind of shifted to that 5,000 in the middle of this, and maybe that was why, that's the only thing I can think of.
I think there was something with the timing of this that it just didn't
I think you're
happen.
right, that they expected 2,500.
Yep, and so this was kind of like a spur on them, but it was like, well, it was a compromise because we had already came upon this number, but it was kind of like a half-see, but this isn't something we're gonna do on everything. This was like a special negotiation on this one, part of the DA, but ultimately the same funds will be happening, but.
And we're at such a tight window, it's not like we're talking about 20 years.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
True.
it's within a window, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me too much.
So you talked about, they changed it to show the 50-foot half section on 3,500. But
Yeah,
it still can, what did they say about the layout? Because that shifts that down to like 80 feet right there, and they gotta have a parking lot and a building.
so here is what. I added a recommendation in the presentation. I personally think that they should absorb the special use area lots into the commercial lots. I think they should just have commercial lot 1 and commercial lot 2. Because I kind of pulled up, I know you guys have questions about setbacks with parking and the parking standards. Here are a couple of relevant sections of our ordinance here. For non-residential, parking can be located off-site, but they can't be any further than 500 feet. However, if there's gonna be any kind of unloading or loading on-site, that parking has to be on-site. And so my recommendation would be that these special use area lots be absorbed into these commercial lots. So they've got a little more flexibility and they're able to more easily, I feel like, meet the ordinance. We don't know what the parking requirements will be at this time because the parking requirements are dictated by the specific use that's being proposed on site. So, and as far as using some of this parking area for residential overflow, they can certainly have a private agreement with that HOA, but the county doesn't need to be involved in with that.
Tammy, I do have one question.
Sure.
So if we take the commercial boundary that was approved in the development agreement,
Mhm.
is that commercial boundary coming from here going back, or is it coming from here going back?
The commercial boundary, I would say it is from here going back.
I'm sorry, where's your cursor?
Sorry, can you see it?
Oh,
here?
yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
Yep.
I would say it's from here going back because the C1 zone requires a complete street design. So they are required to improve 3,500 West all along this commercial area to a complete street design that includes parking, pedestrian, bicycle, multimodal pathway transportation along there, as well as some landscaping requirements.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, however, this area here is technically within the right of way that they're dedicating. So
Okay.
So it shouldn't be within the right of way, but shouldn't those parking and amenities that they're required to be, shouldn't that be in their property, not on
That's,
public right of way?
that's what I wanted to ask.
That's
right
what
there.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
concerned about.
Yeah.
That's why I brought that up, because I'm thinking that all of that should be on their property.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which if it's on, if it ends up on their property, it cuts them in
even
even
further.
further.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And I'm thinking that that should be taken out of the multifamily area and not out of the commercial area, so that when the commercial does become commercial, it's viable.
Yeah, yeah, it's not just a 10-foot wide building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Well, I mean, it won't.
Well, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating it, but yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So,
Tammy, can I ask you a question?
yeah,
The areas you marked in orange, you wanted to change those to commercial?
no, these are, see this designation here? There are two of these proposed type special area lots. Let me go back to the main. These are just outlining common area, just so you can see where they're proposing to put their common area. These are proposing to be parking lots. They're labeling them as special use area lots, but really they're just gonna be used for parking. And I'll show you what this looks like. I asked for, I had to kind of zoom in. So this is the commercial along 3300, 3500. This, I think, is tentatively what they'd be looking at as far as parking and how that would fit in there.
Yeah,
Let me see.
so
if I-
2 rows.
Yep, and you asked, Andrew, you asked about this area further south in their southwest corner on 3500. That is what it looks like. That's what looks like, what they, yeah.
Just a single row
Mm-hmm.
and parking against the road and, okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
And if you flip that so that the parking was on the other side.
Over here on, along this side.
Yeah, yeah, so in other words, over here where it says, right here.
Mm-hmm.
That would even be better, because then you wouldn't have cars out here next to the, you know,
Yeah,
That's it.
well,
you have a backup space, so in other words, just flip it, but I'm not bent on that, it doesn't matter. Whatever works there, but it was a little bit concerning for space.
well, and I will tell you, if we go back to this here, let me see if I can, right here. Their dedication begins here and goes out 50 feet. From here to the edge of their residential is only 87 feet.
Okay,
So they may end up coming in, what, maybe 30 feet, Rick, with a complete street design, which would give them about 50 to 60 feet of
yeah,
this commercial area depth, yeah, off of 3500.
is that enough for a single row parking? I presume it is. Normal parking stalls,
Normal parking stalls 8x9 usually.
and how much room do you give for the turn, how much radius?
Is it a?
The back out area is 18 or 24 feet.
Okay.
So they'd have sufficient space there.
Yeah,
Is there sufficient parking though?
right. Well, that depends on the use. So whatever use they put in there, they're gonna have to address that.
Do they have adequate parking for the residential alone, or are they counting on that commercial to?
That's my concern.
They would have enough for the residential alone because,
Separate.
Parking that.
because they're all providing 2-car garages. And then this area right here is limited common area. And so that's back out area that they could park in for visitors. So
But they only have two parking places, which is the garage per unit.
and then right behind it, they have the back out area where they could put 2.
I mean, over 20 feet, like 20-foot driveways.
So, are they gonna park in the commercial parking stalls? Yeah, but should they have to, and should that impede what they've allowed for here? No.
I thought we required more parking than that per unit. How many bedroom units are these?
We just per dwelling unit, so whether you're doing an ADU that only has 1 bedroom or a 5-bedroom home, a single family residence requires 2
So
I
off-street
think I
parking
brought this up
spaces.
before, that we need to
Yeah.
change that ordinance. That is not adequate.
Yeah, I think for where we're at right now, It's probably not adequate. But where we're going in the future, I think the vehicular requirements will kind of decrease, but we probably won't see it in our lifetime. It'll-
Just from living in California where everyone thinks that you're not going to,
Mhm.
no, it's going to increase. And if we don't regulate it, there's gonna be 5 families living in each home and their cars are gonna be parked along the entire street.
Yeah, and it depends on, with these units, I don't see these being like, having an accessory dwelling unit within they keep
No.
it, but they could be, obviously rented out.
They won't be parking in the garage is the problem.
Is this?
Yeah, the garage is for the crowd and then the cars won't be in the garage.
Yeah,
There's no driveway for the
So-
car.
It's true.
So you know what, this turns down to one of those governing themselves, this is gonna be an HOA, if they have 4 stalls, 2 garage, 2 stalls.
Yeah,
As far as I'm concerned, for the size these units are gonna be, I think it's fine, I don't have a problem with that. Now, should they have some extra spaces here or there for guests? Yeah, probably
do.
so.
They have extra parking in there, Jana.
Well, they have extra parking that's out here for the commercial area.
Don't they have some mixed inside though too?
I don't
There's a
think
little-
they do they, Tammy?
They've got a couple of little
Do they?
spots,
Okay.
yeah, just a little bit, not much.
Okay.
The developer indicated that this would be shared parking and maybe it shouldn't be, but that was his indication when I asked about these special use areas.
I don't think he's allowed to do that. You need a certain amount of parking for the commercial and a certain amount of parking for the residential. And once you share it, then that's just taking commercial, like,
Is there a requirement?
I don't think there's anything in the development agreement that talked about shared parking.
It was,
About the code for.
Yes, and is there anything in the code?
It could allow for that. But,
think so well.
Yeah.
It's gonna make that commercial really hard to sell if it's filled with homes, a homeowner parking there.
The commercial so far as it is.
Yeah, it's
It
already
is.
limited.
You could put a condition on the subdivision approval that the parking be separate. Then it comes down to an enforcement issue.
yeah,
Will
you
we
could have that.
see this again on the commercial side for site plan approval?
But I guess we can't ask for more residential parking because of their garages are meeting that requirement,
Correct.
and I don't know what we can do. That change the ordinance.
Change the ordinance, but we can't change this one.
Yeah, that's what I'm
It
saying.
won't affect
It
this.
won't affect this
Yeah.
one. I don't know what we can do.
Can I bring up a couple of concerns that have been brought up by the public? I think we forwarded you an email that came from the Primadel family.
Yep.
I've gotten a couple of other calls. There have been many discussions over the last few years with West Haven City. The mayor called and one of his concerns, which I think is a legitimate concern, is the traffic impact along 3300 heading east to that intersection of Midland and putting some additional impact on that. And it may be relevant to require a traffic study prior to final approval and see if any additional improvements are warranted. There's nothing in their development agreement that requires that right now, but a traffic study may do that.
In my
So-
opinion on that is, they're either gonna head south on 35 to 36, or they're gonna go east to 27 and end up at that
Over Hinkley
intersection
Drive.
over to Hinkley.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody's
That
gonna go
Midland
straight up to
intersection's
Midland.
not busy, no, it is.
Not, that is a weird intersection.
Yeah, Midland's just taking your life in your own hands.
Yeah, you don't even do that unless you're out.
West Haven's so concerned about that, look at all the density they built around that intersection.
Yeah.
There's a lot, yeah.
And it's a justifiable concern, but they had as much to do with that being the mess it is as anybody else. In fact, probably more so.
I'm just forwarding along.
Come on, Tim, don't kill me now. You're offended.
So,
Sorry.
no, you're good. I did let the mayor know. I said at this point, they're at subdivision. This is not a legislative thing. There really is minimal negotiation. There's nothing they're proposing that conflicts with their development agreement or with ordinance. And so we, as planning staff, unless we see a conflict with that or a health safety issue, we are obligated to recommend approval. And generally speaking, the planning commission is obligated to grant preliminary approval unless you guys see something glaring that needs to be addressed. So,
The other part of that is West Haven's already got funding for corridor preservation to purchase that right away to pipe 33 into 36, if I had it right to him.
oh, okay, that was another concern he brought up, like,
He's got WACAR funding for it.
yeah.
And yeah, it might clip the corner of this property, but
Mhm. So anyway, those are just some concerns, previous performance, there's a subdivision, I guess, in West Haven. That neighbors are claiming wasn't finished, I haven't verified that, I can't speak to that. It's not in our municipality, so,
play into our decision, because it's not.
yeah, I'm just bringing that up, because typically we don't take public comment during administrative items, and so I just wanted to make sure that that was mentioned to you guys, so. Otherwise, you've got the conditions of approval in your staff report. Sewer, let me address sewer real quick, because that's one that's come up a few times. I talked to Chad this morning and I said, exactly where are they with sewer? He said, what they've proposed is feasible. It's feasible enough to grant a preliminary approval. What they haven't submitted that they will be required to prior to final are lift station plans. They want to see plans for the lift station. They want to see a capacity assessment for that. And they need to see that the applicant has secured easements of those properties to tie into that lift station. And to push it north. So they've got some hurdles to get through before they can get to final approval. And all of those will have to be addressed with county engineering before we bring them before you guys for final
So
approval.
this basically is banking on Navy Meadows getting their sewer done to make this one work.
Right.
Right.
So those conditions that Navy have are basically the same here.
And in a 3-year time period, which has the clock started on that? Did the clock start on that?
When the development agreement was recorded in March of 2023. Now, they submitted this, to be fair, they recorded their development agreement in March. They submitted this in May. And because we haven't seen any plans for sewer, they've been in a holding pattern until Navy Meadows. So that's why you're just now seeing this despite application coming in May.
So now approximately for this subdivision and per engineering's requirements, they've got about, what, 13 months? When did it record, did you say? In
March of
Yeah, so
23,
you've
so they're
got
coming up on a year.
Yeah, you've got,
Nope, 2
not even,
years.
yeah, you've got.
Yeah.
You've got about 4.
Cause I think we approved this in January of 24.
I'm gonna double check that for you.
It was either
Fact check
January or
that.
December of 24. I think it was December of 23 when it got planning commission approval. Then county commission and then development agreement should have been 24.
I think it took a little bit of time to get the DA taken care of.
Let's see. That could have been commission
Sorry.
approval. No, I'm glad you brought it up. Let me see.
I think
Well,
we
it
first
just
seen
kind
it.
of, the clock's ticking anyway.
Yeah.
I'd kind of like to know what the clock is.
Right.
My recollection was March of 24, so they're almost on that year mark.
And if it, March 24,
So this will be a year. Means they gotta get some infrastructure in and get going, cause
24, you're right. So they've got a couple of years is all they've got. That's it.
Well, that's their concern.
yeah,
If they get it going, they get it going. But if it's kind of relying on somebody else, they should get going. They can't speed that up.
right.
Okay.
You guys have any other questions for me on this one?
No,
We'll be coming back here, right?
yeah,
I hope, well, there's too many on the agenda, they're not.
yeah, we're coming back here. They'll all be hoarse at the end of the day.
Don't need them. Hide the lunch so no one else eats our, that'll be our second dinner.
I think you're good.
You ready?
Well, welcome out to our Western Weaver County Planning Commission meeting for February 11th. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and
Thank you. And let's see, we'll move into our roll call. Looks like everybody is present and accounted for. Thanks, commissioners, for being here. And we'll go to the minutes. And I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes from November 12th, December 3rd, and December 10th.
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the changes that were discussed in our pre-meeting.
Got a motion? I'll ask for a second.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is administrative item number 2. Director Grover.
We've already had public hearings to get this project to the state where it is, so public comment is typically not taken at the subdivision level. We have had a few individuals who have submitted written comment, and Tammy mentioned that in the pre-meeting of their concerns. But on this one, you'll just be reviewing it against the subdivision code and how it is or it is not meeting the code, and this Aydelotte will be presented to the site.
Perfect. When you're ready.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. This is going to look familiar. This is called Kanesville Crossing. There is a strange echo here. This is 7.44 acres, as you can see, surrounded on a few sides by West Haven. This went through a rezone process in the last year or two. Development agreement recorded in 2024, not 2023, as is stated in the staff report. You have 7.44 acres in both the C1 and the R3 zone. Couple of things I just kind of want to bring up with this. Applicant is proposing 77 townhome units with some common area parcels, commercial lots. There is a development agreement tied to this, and so far everything that they're proposing doesn't conflict with their recorded development agreement or with Weber County ordinance. Couple of reminders with this one. Number one, with their development agreement, they are applicant has volunteered to donate $5,000 per residential unit to the Western Weber Parks District. Per the county commission approval, half of that is due at plat recordation and the other half is due with each building permit application after that. Public right-of-ways on 3,500 or 100 feet. So applicant is proposing to dedicate a half width of that as well as a half width of an 80-foot right-of-way along 3,300. Applicant is proposing private right-of-ways within this development. Wanted to show you their compliance with the Western Weber General Plan. This is the location of this development. It is a mixed-use commercial area. They did go through that rezone to get that. It's also, as you can see, wanted to just kind of show you where it sits with West Haven's general plan. This is the location of that parcel in their C2 zone. I can't speak to the details of their C2 zone, but it is zoned commercial for their future. Just wanted to kind of show you that. This is the proposed layout. Their development agreement calls for a few things: street trees along 3,300, a 10-foot wide pathway along 3,500. They've got complete street designs that are required with this as well along 3,500. Something else that's in their development agreement, I don't know if you recall this, but at least 5% of their dwelling units are to be deed restricted as moderate income housing for 25 years is what their development agreement states. These are private roadways and driveways throughout with the rear facing garages here. So these are surrounded by common area, a little bit of additional parking shown here, and then you've got some common area open space parcels that are scattered throughout this development. Applicant is proposing on here, they're showing a commercial lot 1, a commercial lot 2, and a couple of lots that they're designating as special use area lots. When I asked the developer about this, they indicated this would be designated parking for both commercial and residential uses. Specifically, just to make sure that this is stated in the meeting, We don't have parking requirements that come into play until the applicant is proposing a specific commercial use. Each specific commercial use dictates how many required parking spaces they will need to show. Just kind of an overview of where some of their common areas are proposed. This is a close-up. I know that in the chair vice chair meeting last week, there were some concerns with showing the proper amount of roadway dedication and what that looks like as far as lot depth specific to those commercial areas. It looks like they'd have about 87, 88 feet of commercial depth along 3,500 and a bit more of that along 3,300 kind of coming in. So, and I've got here's a close-up further south on that southwest corner. This is what that looks like. It's more limited common area. This is what their tentative proposed parking. This is kind of what it would look like. You got the townhomes here, commercial buildings, commercial lots, and then you've got these parking areas here. And again, more parking down below. These are just kind of some community concerns that have come up. Now at this point, subdivisions are they go through an administrative process. There isn't a whole lot of negotiation. Our job as staff is simply to see if it meets county ordinance, if it meets their development agreement, and if it does, then we forward a positive recommendation to the Planning Commission. There are some things that Planning Commission, some areas where you guys can exercise discretion. However, with this particular development, there's nothing that they're proposing that conflicts with either ordinance or the development agreement. Despite that, these are some of the concerns from the public that we've heard over the last few days. Connectivity from 3,300 to 3,600, traffic impact along 3,300. There is agricultural properties surrounding this development, and so the concern is how that will affect the ag use. Sewer. I know that this is a big concern. This is a concern that came from West Haven, from the county, from residents. I spoke with one of our county engineers actually right before this meeting, and he indicated that what the applicant has proposed is feasible. He's shown that it's feasible to do sewer. They're looking at tying into the Navy Meadows lift station. At this point, that's all they need to show in order to get preliminary approval. In order to get their final approval, they have to show lift station designs. They've got to show easements through properties to get that infrastructure where it needs to go. And they also need to show adequate capacity assessment. So they've got a few things they've got to address before they can get their final approval, but they have met our minimum requirements for preliminary approval. Staff would recommend approval based upon the recommendations outlined in the staff report. I added an additional one, and this is up to the Planning Commission if you want to include this, but these special use area lots don't lend to a whole lot of flexibility, possibly. It limits the commercial lots as far as the type of use they can use if they don't have adequate on-site parking. Only some commercial uses require on-site parking. And so whether on-site is defined as on the same lot or immediately adjacent, maybe that's interpreted later on. And so just to possibly allow the developer to be able to have some flexibility in the future with their commercial uses, Planning Commission may require or may want to see those special area use lots just absorbed into each of those two commercial lots. Just a suggestion, certainly up to the Planning Commission. Do you have any questions for me at this time?
Commissioners?
Chair, I got one. So just the concern that was brought up on the tying into the adjacent ag lands, what's the fencing requirement for the perimeter of the property? Was there anything in the development agreement that spells that out, or what's in our code?
Nothing in the development agreement. In our code with commercial parking, they do have to have some screening along their parking areas.
What about the
adjacent
resident? The residential, is it a 6 foot?
Yes.
No climb fence around the exterior boundary of the property, isn't it?
Do we have a no climb around the subdivision? I know that we have a no climb requirement around canals. Yeah.
Okay, count my wires crossed, but at least
Right.
there'll be some sort of a fence around,
Yes.
kind of segregating the project and the farm areas. Okay, thanks.
Tammy, I have a quick question. At what stage or what point does the applicant specify what that commercial use is gonna be?
When they, so right now they're just looking for subdivision approval. When they record this plat, these will all be labeled different lots. So when someone comes in with what they would need to submit at minimum would be a design review or a site plan review. If that site is looking to disturb more than an acre and the area of the structure of the use occupies more than 10,000 square feet, that would come before the planning commission for approval. Anything smaller than that, which I doubt we would see here, because for any structure, they've got to go through a design review. So the moment they, if they don't go through it first, then when they go to submit a building permit, planning gets in there and says, hey, we're going to stop you right now. You've got to come back in for design review. We're looking at traffic circulation. We're looking at any detrimental effects to adjacent properties and how that might be mitigated. Parking, fencing, screening, landscaping. Possibly architectural requirements, though that's not in their development agreement.
I thought this one had some pretty spelled out architectural in the commercial zone.
In the zoning it does, but not necessarily in their development agreement. It mentions a few of them, but this isn't the form-based zone, so the requirements are a little bit
I
different.
thought there were special ones because they showed us all those renderings with the farm kind of style buildings.
Yeah,
Was that part of this development agreement that those commercials have to fit that? That's what I was thinking, but I just wanted to check.
gotcha.
Commissioners, anything else for staff? Okay, one thing I'd like to mention, and I think it may have already been mentioned, just can't remember if it was here or in the pre-meeting, and that is that this agreement is time bound.
Mhm.
And there's approximately 23 months left. 25 months. Okay, 25 months left on the time for this to be developed to completion. So just something to have in your mind as we go through the process. Okay. Commissioners?
Was there anything on the setbacks that you wanted to include in a motion? Or is it included adequately in recommendations?
Setback on 3500 West.
You mean for the on-street parking?
Yes.
The road dedication, the right of way.
I think that's spelled out in the development agreement. Isn't it?
Yes.
So I mean, yeah, I guess we could list it as a condition, but it's kind of a
But it is.
point. If it's in the development agreement, then it's,
So just adjust the drawings to accommodate it, but it doesn't need to be part of the conditions.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're kind of bound by what's in that development agreement anyways. What's in county code and what's in the development agreement. So as long as we feel it meets those. Based on staff, we met those requirements, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Anything else, commissioners? All right. Well, thank you, Miss Adelaide. And I know I murdered your name. I apologize. I'm trying though.
Good. I think Felix and I are both probably accustomed to it. You're good.
I'm very professional. That's why we just first name.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I should learn. Anyway, okay. Commissioners, any discussion on this item? Okay, all right, then it looks like I'll be ready for a motion. I know that I can't make a motion, so somebody's going to have to.
For a year to make a motion.
2 years. Based on staff's recommendation. For preliminary approval of Kanesville Crossing Subdivision consisting of 77 residential lots, 2 commercial lots and 2 special use area lots, a stormwater detention pond, a common area throughout the proposed subdivision. I recommend approval of this with the following conditions. Condition number 1, payment of $2,500 per lot be made to the Western Weaver Parks District at subdivision plat recording and the additional 2,500 be made with each building permit that is pulled as per the recorded agreement. The proposed special use area lots meet the minimum requirements and distances of parking lots from lot line roadways for the Weber County ordinance. Additional landscape buffering may be required along 3,500 west and 3,300 south until the C1 portion of this zone is developed. An unconditional final approval letter from culinary and secondary water provider are submitted before the planning commission considers offering final approval. Hold on. This won't come back to us. That's staff level, right? Strike the last part of that. Let me restate 4. An unconditional final approval letter from culinary and secondary water provider will be submitted before final approval. All improvements shall be approved by county review agencies prior to receiving final approval. Tammy, could you show me the 6th one? Sorry. It's not in staff report and I didn't write it down.
You're good, you're fine. I will tell you, just kind of been combing through the development agreement. We actually don't have architectural standards outlined in there for this, so. No,
thought there
I've
was.
gone through it the last few days. I didn't see it, so I thought, well, maybe I missed it. I don't know. Let's see.
Maybe the developer, Mr. Cadden, will still build them cool farm buildings like you showed us.
Yeah. There's your 6th one here.
Okay. And the 6th condition, the special use area lots be combined with the proposed commercial lots to allow for more flexibility of the commercial area in the C1 zone. My recommendation, based on the following findings, the proposed subdivision conforms with the West Central General Plan and the proposed subdivision complies with all applicable county ordinances.
Thank you. Have a motion. I'll ask for a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. We'll take a roll call. Commissioner Klontz,
Hi.
Commissioner McCormick, excuse me. Aye. Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Andriotti.
Aye.
Commissioner Wickern.
Aye.
Commissioner Nivell, excuse me.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, next item
On our agenda.
is public comment for items that were not on this agenda. Have anything they'd like to tell us that is not already on the agenda for tonight's meeting? Oh, come on.
Some armor matter.
Where it's a work session item, I'd consider that being on the agenda, but Director,
It's up to you.
Commissioners, okay.
My name is Dylan Hemming. I just give you guys a copy of this petition we have for this Gibson farm. Where you guys are putting, right now it's been put to three lots. Sorry, 3 lots per acre, and now you guys are changing it to 6 lots per acre. So I have a petition from people in the community, got 150 signatures. And that was back in December, and just everybody's just wanting to go back to the drawing board, keep it at 3rd acre lots, or even back to 1 acre lots, but we just definitely not wanting what you guys have the agenda so far. And want to go back to the drawing board, have more open spacing, not just the emerald necklace that you guys have been talking about, but actual parks, actual soccer, baseball fields, area for that. Put a 300-foot away from the river like you guys wanted, but now it's up to 100. And it's varying back and forth. People we're looking at is people 147 both sides and 12th Street. That's who these signatures are. I want to get to you guys for copies. But yeah, nobody wants this. We want you guys to design somewhere where you want to live, somewhere where you want your kids to live. Not in the community that doesn't represent farming community, everything that we've had out there. So I just want to give this to you guys. I don't know if you guys don't have a copy or not. We can get more signatures if needed. But we just want you guys back drawing board on this, get some.
Yeah, I'll let Legal take that. Mr. Manning, will you just state your address really quick for Tiffany?
Yeah, I'm at 1085 North 4700 west.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Is Suncrest Meadows the?
Come on up. Don't be shy.
I'm not. So is Suncrest Meadows, the townhomes in Suncrest Meadows, is that on the agenda?
It's on the work session.
Okay.
Go ahead if you have something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a resident of Suncrest Meadows currently and very concerned about the option to put townhomes. I have other people that live in that subdivision here with me. There's much concern about that.
Can you give us your address?
Yeah. Travis Covington, it's 4802 west, 2625 south.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Is that the, all your comments, Chad? Didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, I mean, obviously, we went out there and purchased our lots, considering they were 1 acre lots. They're still being, I mean, it's still being advertised and all the way through as 1 acre lots. There's still actual advertising on 4700 listing that. And, you know, I believe that's how the plot is listed with the county, and that's how we would like it to stay. We're definitely for, you know, high density housing and things of that nature. But in this community where we purchased that with an expectation of, you know, that subdivision became finished as it was approved. So.
Thank you very much.
The Midland Townhomes, the rezoning. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry.
See you coming.
So I'm also just a neighbor in the Suncrest Meadows subdivision. My name is Kelly Nelson. I'm at 4818 West, 2700 South. I just want to second everything Travis has said, and then just also to speak to when we purchased those lots, you know, the whole plat, the whole design of the neighborhood already had spoke for the 1 acre lots. And in his proposition, the proposal, it shows that he wants that to be more of a hub, but if you looked at townhomes like this last presentation, it's more designed around a walking community center, in which you have more, I guess, services. And this is clear as far west as you can go, to 5100 west. And there's also a lot of impacts that will be to the traffic there. There's already a lot of accidents on 4700 west and 2550 south, with the proposition of 82 townhomes on the 6 acre lot. The traffic there will increase immensely, as well as there's no sidewalks. There's out on 2550. There's some other impacts with the new elementary school there, where there's really, my kids, we have to drive them because we're in a walking zone, but on 5100 west out there, there's no sidewalks, there's ditches. The road is only 18 feet wide. If you bring in that many more people, what is the impact to the school district there? And that walking zone, that would also be considered a walking zone. That road out there is 18 feet wide, and there's no shoulder on either side. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jill, 585 South, 3600 West. I've brought this up many, many times, but on the agenda tonight, we had what, 5 workshops? I tried, you guys know I try to get the word out there as much as possible. I still think we need to have the developers put a public notice on their site. Cause there are many people that do not, and there are ordinances in place. Charles made one for Morgan. I know he knows how to do it, but maybe to get more people involved. I don't know.
Chair, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
You mean like on the property, they have to post a sign, this property's up for rezone or something like that? Is that what you mean on that?
Yeah.
You don't have an ordinance that says that?
No.
But we have occasionally put signs out courtesy for them. It's just right now staffing, it's hard to stand.
Well, it should be up on the developer, right? We should make a
Morgan,
recommendation to.
If I'm right, Morgan has to do it for, I believe they have to do it for 30 days before a meeting. And I don't know if it's just public hearings or which kind of meetings, and I don't know if they even have a regulation on maybe how big the lot, because like 1 acre lots, you're not as concerned about. But and they even have to go, they have to pay for it themselves, And they have to, like, if it rains or anything, they're supposed to go back out there and do it. And that's what brought it to my attention. My family lives in Morgan and I see them in Morgan. And I mean, you notice them, they're a good sign. And so I just thought it might help get some more people involved.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate all your efforts trying to get the word out there, so
I try.
thanks, Jim.
Most of the time, that's just required for public hearings. In most municipalities, that's how it is. Ours, it's more courtesy.
Well, we can have some further discussion about it, put it in my notes, and we can bring this up again. Okay, anyone else? All right, well, we'll move on to the next item. Remarks from planning commissioners, anybody have anything to say? All right. How about?
I'm gonna start off with that. I think, Director Grover, I'd like to see a recommendation from county commission to allow us to look at that code and put that in. I mean, they can put nice big signs up to show this is for sale and everything else, but it would be nice to have something out there to help get the word out. So maybe if you'd pass along to the commission to see if they would allow us to. Just so the public knows our hands are kind of tight on this stuff, we have to make a recommendation to the county commission to allow us to open up code and stuff like that to look at making those changes, and they have to allow us to do that, so we could do that. That's all I got.
Great. Anyone else?
I have something. I sent an email to everyone earlier with a lot of my remarks. But I have something to add to it. That's why I broke it up. One in an email and a little more here tonight. I'm concerned that a lot of the legislation that we have protects development at the expense of taxpayers. Currently, there are lots of rules to make sure that developers are not required to pay for deficiencies that are in a community because the taxes have not been sufficiently high enough to care for the community. But the reverse is not true. We do not have any legislation that protects taxpayers from having to pay additional fees for development that occurs. Development can be beneficial to us, to a community, and right now, if we want our kids to be able to afford homes or to live anywhere near us, we need to develop properties. So I know a lot, I've heard some comments about 1 acre properties here tonight. We will still have 1 acre properties. The problem with properties that large is they require a lot of taxpayer dollars to maintain. That street frontage, all of the length of the sewer, the length of the water. Right now, Weber County has a very difficult time maintaining their roads and maintaining their infrastructure because it is so spread out. And the only way to alleviate this issue is to make sure that going forward, we plan developments that can pay for themselves so that we are not subsidizing those developments as taxpayers. So in our new general plan, we have allowed for what we'd like to see is a 1/3 average zoning. So what that looks like is we're gonna see homes that are on smaller plots than 1/3. And we're going to see more open space. We've asked a lot of developers coming in and donating land and money to build parks, so we do have open space. But that is also a continuing burden when we need to maintain those park areas. Something else that's very concerning to me is that we have nothing to protect us. I got on the planning commission, one of the reasons is we had a denser community or development coming into our existing community. I was frustrated because it would bring a lot of students into our school, and our school was already too full. And what I've learned now is that there is not a mechanism for the schools to raise money when more students are approved in their school district. So essentially, we approve more development and we have impact fees for those developments, but there is not a mechanism for the schools to build schools for those new students. So I guess in summary, I personally, as a commissioner, I will be asking these new developments to donate land for the schools at a minimum. I mean, that's not gonna pay for our new schools, but I'd like to reduce the impact that these students have on the existing community. We can't maintain our current schools if we're consistently building new schools out in the rest of the community. So I just kind of a fair warning to planning commissioners, me, and I also think this will be beneficial to us as community planners, because we need those schools planned into our communities. Right now, we've got an elementary school with ditches and sidewalk. It doesn't have the appropriate infrastructure. The school barely has the money to build the schools. They don't have the money for the infrastructure. And normally, we would require a developer to put all of that infrastructure in, but because they're a school, we can't require that. And quite frankly, they don't have the money for it. It would just come out of our taxpayers' pockets again to improve that area. So if we can get the schools planned into our communities, ask the developers to contribute land for the schools, then we can have safer communities, we can have better integrated communities. But what we will be asking from our community are these rezones, well-placed, denser housing, so that financially developers can make this happen. If we have 1 acre plots, we cannot grow or sustain our existing infrastructure with that kind of planning. We will end up having very high taxes, and we will be spread out very far, and we won't have communities. We'll have a vast network of 1 acre lots and no farm, no open space. So I'd really like to see us, I like the plans that are coming to us. We have some master plan communities that are giving lots of open space. I'd like to see the schools integrated into these communities. And in return, I hope that we ask enough from these developers that we're not burdening the existing citizens, and that they do see a better community building around them that doesn't impact them as heavily as we've seen in the past. That's my rant.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else?
Couple follow-up comments to Commissioner Rickard. I understand a lot of what you're saying and agree with a lot as well. 2 items that kind of got my attention: the fact that bigger lots have a bigger impact on the community and the structure. I don't believe that. I think more waste, it's my turn.
I know. I know.
More waste in a sewer line, more traffic on the road has a greater impact. Not saying there's not a balance there. I'm saying it probably does balance itself out a little bit. And honestly, I'm an educator. I have kids in schools. I have a lot of passion for school and education, but I'm kind of tired of everybody fighting for schools when I see them waste tens of millions of dollars on one project because of poor planning.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep fighting for schools to keep making mistakes. They need to get their waste together and figure that out. So I might not be with you on every battle if you're trying to fight for the school, and just my 2 cents.
I think there's more discussion to be had. I think our schools definitely can be more efficient with the funds that they have. But having land and being able to control our part of that, we're in charge of land use and keeping communities safe. If we can do that part of it, then hopefully we can have a better relationship with the school district and help alleviate that tax burden we have on the current community. I run the numbers for how much the actual capacity versus the length of that pipe. And that, I can tell you it's the length of the pipe. I've run the numbers, that's what I do. So believe it or not.
Or I have to call Mike.
Yeah.
Commissioners, anything else?
Still love Commissioner Wicker.
And vice versa.
It wouldn't be no fun without the debates.
That's right.
And they're good debates. Anyone else? These are just chicken, aren't you, to jump into this? Okay. All right, Director Grover.
Planning Commission dinner, we're gonna have the year-end numbers and everything next Tuesday. We planned that, so it didn't interfere with any meetings with the Western Weaver and the Ogden Valley and the Board of Adjustments, so it's at the Grandview. We'll send out more detailed information if you don't know where that is. But we just want to show appreciation to you guys for all you do, and we'll see the thankless position, and you guys put in a lot of time and a lot of hours for the community, and so thank you, and appreciate the debates that go back and forth and deliberations you guys put into each one of the items.
Thank you, Director. Appreciate that. Mr. Keough.
No, sir.
No words of wisdom?
My mic doesn't work. I can't think of it. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn to our work session. We'll take 10 minutes in between.
Some of,
All in favor? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Chair, we're going into the back room.
We're going into 10 minutes.
Okay.
Back and forth there and really opportunity to meet, so, yeah, for sure.
Hello.
You have to send me the Zoom link. This is always a disaster.
Okay, you gotta give me just a minute though. I'm trying to get this.
This one's weird because there's a lot of.
So that's working.
nuances out there, like, I was talking to Rick earlier.
No, wherever you want.
That the two subdivision plat, it literally is, we're gonna subdivide, give one parcel to the water district, after we build a water. tank. I'm like, this guy already did.
So you see why I'm quiet, right?
I'm like,
We love your husband. Oh my
He's like,
goodness.
So I go, how was your meeting? I don't know if they like me and like.
I love it.
He's very.
He was so good.
He's good. He's, I mean, he does what he does and he knows what he does.
Yes.
And he's very like.
We like it. He was just
There's
the point. Perfect.
I love it when people are just. Yeah, we have to just. What you get, what you see is what you get. You know? So, I mean, they can get legal, you know, but he was.
He actually said it went fine.
Yes, he was really good.
How are you guys? Good. I got stacks of paper.
Yeah, you're.
You handle all of that deed restriction.
Is this the same Zoom link every time? Cause I think
I think it is, should be, if it's not, we.
Otherwise,
should
it's
change
not
that.
out.
Yeah. We're about to find out.
The concern the county had, like, subdivide, you know, you say you're putting a water tank, but you build a house, and it's not really a true lot, you don't have utilities, or you're trying to sell it to somebody and trick them into thinking it's full session. You can protect all those.
Yeah, yeah.
things. So it's just something that.
Mhm.
We have to.
No, no one's getting.
So like,
anything yet.
the customer district, they're gonna wanna build a building, they're gonna wanna go get bond money, they have to give it to them. Like the one that's already in your queue. So like, it has to be a legal lot, so they can actually go and bond and build their building. And so there's, but that one's all done, like that'll actually have infrastructure.
No, I'm
The
good.
only thing there is the financial guarantees. Because we're obligated by the development agreement to do it, and the PID.
Yeah, I see that.
Still got my.
That's why the development agreement is written in with the financial guarantee. Because it's all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it went out Thursday or Friday.
So, but that one, I think,
So,
that one doesn't
yeah,
have as many
Uno
nuances.
was-
And it's the next one.
So it was, it was close. It must have gone out Thursday. Then.
We're ready. And we're gonna
Yeah.
submit.
Okay.
It's the water.
Thank you for your offer. Yeah. I just am on a timeline here and it's not,
As long as you.
the computer is not cooperating. I do not. I can go get one if you can give me just a minute. Yeah, I don't think Cammy wants this. The only thing is that I just stole the agenda off it. Sorry, Rick. Okay.
This is wrong.
I'm not signed in, so you don't have an email from me previously? I think I do. So we're about to find out.
There's a lot more words, but. Gives you a
I'm
lot
gonna
of
look at sent. Geneva, the black pine. Yes. The only thing is it says scheduled for January 13th. It's still the same.
He was involved in the development.
So maybe you just need to let me in then. Okay, I can look and see on Zoom.
Perhaps.
If you.
How are you?
No, I don't see it up there.
Can you do invite at the bottom?
I think I might have.
I think same thing's gonna come.
Oh, we gotta. Okay. Send it through the
And
regular.
notice I'm
one.
saying that.
That's weird.
What did it
You
do?
don't.
Well, it just says that all this meeting is scheduled for this time. This is the old one that you sent me.
But it's not the same Zoom link?
Yeah, it doesn't have the same.
That's weird. Let me get to,
When is hers up?
you know what's so funny is I thought about this earlier today. And I
Yeah.
was like, I should send this to her today.
Well, I'll do better too, about
And then
reminding.
completely-
Cause I totally forget about it.
Where's the calendar? There it is.
Yeah. And we'll be sitting next to the next one.
Planning commission.
Who was? Oh,
Isn't there a way to?
well, you didn't get elected.
Yes, so make it bigger.
That's what we did last time, huh?
And then forward it to
That was.
Yeah.
Okay.
G, E, N, N.
Thank you.
Oh, I really don't. I never remember that. At the.
Weird, isn't it?
Yes. No, yes, at the blackpine.com.
I don't think so. I think I'm good.
So, hold on, you gotta go back. Here, let me type this.
I made it.
Yeah, that would be great.
It looks like all the actions in here. Look at this. Crazy.
So the only thing that was for a while during.
Crazy, I think.
Yeah, I think down.
Okay, now use the mouse and push it. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I will try to remember to do. it
No,
before
I
the
will,
meeting
I will
next
start
time,
sending you
but I just,
emails.
I'm too busy to remember
Nope,
everything
I
in the
will.
world.
That's on me.
And is this on? I never heard that.
Well, let's give it a couple more minutes.
Share.
No. on the stuff. Yep.
Curious about.
My wife bought it back.
No, I got a promise.
You got a map, I'm sure. It depends on how much they get.
Sit here. Yeah.
All right, I'll be special.
Do it.
I think I make poor decisions on my chair, because I hate everybody.
No, I'm not.
I'm all about the buildings.
I'm just freaked out because.
I'm seeing the Christians.
Is it just each side?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just kinda, I mean, we're gonna put it on the board.
Oh, okay.
This is
Just a little.
That was good. Yeah, we're moving on.
Echo?
Oh, you better watch out.
This isn't.
I'm gonna look.
Oh, because of last time?
Hello, Brett. More and more towards the time.
Hello, Brett.
Rush that Jeff's over here.
I'm out.
They'll live their neighbors. I'm out.
The second one doesn't work, and it did.
I'll make it easy for you. I'm serious. Too.
Okay.
Perfect, perfect. You can kick me. I got someone that's gonna keep you straight. You know.
Yeah, it's just not,
Yeah, you.
okay,
It's gonna get me in trouble.
I don't know if you noticed, but we put a nice healthy buffer of staff between you guys and the developer.
I got.
I guys-
There's a reason why I went to eat dinner.
Usually it's called. I will be.
All right. Where you at?
Ready, go for it.
All right.
Can you?
Okay. I'll call our work session to order, please. Anybody that has a hard time hearing, come on down, don't be shy. There's chairs down here on this end. Want to make sure that everybody can hear okay, so that we don't have to yell, because that gets a little bit tough after a while. So I made the offer, you can take advantage of it. First item on our work session is let me get to it. A discussion regarding a zoning map amendment application and associated development agreement for the Gibson Farm rezone. A master planned development that will rezone approximately 550 acres of property located within the area bounded by 12th Street, 4700 West, and the Weaver River. The proposed rezone is to a new proposed zone called the Traditional Neighborhood Zone, or TN, which will allow a variety of uses within a master plan development guided by a concept plan, including single-family residential, mixed residential, and mixed neighborhood commercial. The proposal may also include a dual zone coupling the TN, zone with the county's existing form-based zone known as FB. Applicant is Black Pine. So I will turn that time over to. Taking this, or you just turn it right over to Bob?
I'll take a couple seconds. So a couple things for you guys to know, since our last meeting. I just want to confirm, did you guys get a copy of the development agreement draft in our last meeting?
Yes.
You did get it, okay. I thought I handed it out. I haven't heard any comments from you guys just yet on it, so feel free to mark it up, do what you need to do. As soon as I have my comments ready, they'll be in your email inbox. Hopefully, well, I know it'll be plenty before the public hearing. I think the intention right now is to go to a public hearing on March 11th with a work session to discuss it the week before. So if you don't get me your comments before the week before, at least come to that work session with your comments. We've been having some a variety of different discussions with the developer, and I'll let Jeff and Geneva give you guys the higher level respectively. But the biggest question that we've been trying to resolve over the last month or so is it's very likely that this development is going to create a higher level of service demand on government services than other developments do around that area. But it's also very clear to me that executing the general plan is going to do the exact same thing. And so one way or the other, if the community continues to move towards what the general plan says should happen, it'll be a city at some point in time. There needs to be municipal services, and those municipal services need to be paid for. So the county commissioners knew that when we went into the general plan. I made sure that was very clear that right now, the municipal services fund gets about 3% of somebody's annual tax. Property tax goes into the municipal services fund, and it's just not enough. That said, looking at the applicants, I think we've got a path forward in the form of a municipal services tax overlay, basically where there's an additional property tax to just this property, which is nice and easy because we've got full property consent, or property owner consent, and you don't have to go to truth and taxation and let everybody else know about that. So actually, we might still have to do a truth and taxation hearing, but the new property tax would only apply to this property. I am thinking, even though taxation is not necessarily a planning commission concern, I just want to make sure you guys know we're looking at the financial side of it too. I'm thinking that other properties looking for a rezone from here on out, we probably want to have the same conversation with them. Because then, at least as we execute the general plan, we'll know all the new development from maybe here on out or from whenever we do actually do this. will be paying what is appropriate for the municipal services that they'll be demanding. Does that make sense? Any questions about that?
We need to tell me these 5 or 6 landowners that don't sell. Can vote to put this in, and then all the new people that move in just have to deal with it. It sounds like what they did in Mountain Creek.
Yep, we've done the same thing in, Powder Mountain. Because the cost for services on 17 feet of snow in 2020, 1 or 2 or whenever that big year was very expensive. So they're taxing themselves, the county's taxing them, but they chose to.
Something that can actually speak to that.
This is not the same thing just yet. I mean, otherwise, the existing tax base has to take care of the difference. So that's just what this is.
We've had lots of discussions about how to do it, you know that.
Well, the benefit is, I know we were initially talking about maybe a district, we ended up flagpole and county leadership said, we don't want to talk about more districts, it's just a mess. Municipal services from 4 people in the unincorporated area, it is a mess because we don't have a consolidated form of government. It's an unincorporated area of the county trying to do things, water district, a sewer district, a fire district, a park district, and sometimes they all don't talk to each other.
Charlie, sorry, can I jump in just because we're having some recording difficulties? Are you the host right now? It looks like you're hosting. Can you just let anyone in that's trying to get in?
Yours is down here. I don't have host tools anymore down here. They're gone.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
The only way to do it is if I shut this down and started.
So you get out and you go into Zoom, you log into Zoom with the login, and then you go to this link, you'll claim co-host.
Okay.
Maybe that'll work.
No. That was the reason for the prevented swearing. I don't know if you heard that. Not from me. So I got distracted. Where? I don't know. Maybe I'm not talking. Turn over to you.
Wow, that's fascinating. Do that more often.
Strap me in. I'll move on.
Well, and maybe just to add to what Charlie's saying, I think that the hope is that we do an analysis and what will bring impacts greater than what the county already offers. So we are actively working with kind of Charlie, Gary, and staff on parts of the development agreement. Going back and forth. Obviously, if you guys have any comments, I'd love to hear those. But we have a few things I want to talk about tonight. So Lori runs through those in the agenda, and then if you have anything. So we had a second open house last week, and the reason we had the second open house is because we heard some complaints that we didn't give enough notice for the first open house. So we tried to give more notice, and I think we also got complaints that we didn't give enough notice on the second open house. But the point was to, we really wanted to make sure that we heard. And there were a few things that were brought up in that meeting, and I just wanted to touch on some of those. And hopefully Geneva can.
We're almost there. Sorry about that. Thank you.
So to begin with, I just think it would be a good reminder. So in the development agreement, we're tying ourselves to a certain type of development philosophy, and we call it the traditional neighborhood. And Geneva's going to pull up and share just some bullet points. We'll go through them quick. But these are the principles and the concepts of this. So walkability is really important. You first talk about that. Compact pedestrian-friendly neighborhoods with interconnected streets. Sidewalks and street trees. Gary is loving street trees lately. I just wanted to add that. It's great to be comfortable walking. Create a comfortable walking environment. Buildings are close to the street to enhance the public realm. Mixed-use development, a mix of residential, commercial, and civic spaces within short walking distance, shops, offices, and homes integrated rather than separated into single zones. Diverse housing options, so this was something that we'll hit on in a minute, but this type of development, we provide a variety of housing types, including single-family homes, townhomes, and apartments, housing for different income levels and different life stages. Human scale design buildings and public spaces are designed for people, not just cars. Architectural elements that create a sense of place are really important. Define public spaces, parks, plazas, and greens as central gathering points. Civic buildings located in spots. Again, open space is a big part of the conversation. Street network and connectivity, a grid or modified grid street pattern to disperse traffic and encourage walking, alleys and narrow streets to slow vehicle speeds. Transportation options support for multiple modes of transportation, walking, biking, transit, cars. Transit stops integrated into the design, and a strong community identity, architectural guidelines, and economic support. So this is the basis of this. This is what's in the development agreement. Our town architect has to be an expert in this, and the town architect that we initially have goes away, then the county and us will pick the next one to make sure that it matches these books. So want to go to our concept plan that we've been working on. You've seen this, but I just want to point out a couple things as it relates to density. Let me pull that up to you. So one of the things that was talked a lot in the open house was just multifamily housing and low density, and I was a little taken aback by why this this is not a density apartment. It's a neighborhood, mostly single family. But once David pulls up this concept map, it's in front of you as well. So you zoom out. So this is what we call kind of the Main Street core. And if you see there's buildings that are brown and buildings that are orange, those are both commercial and more dense housing, and you really need that kind of energy to create that Main Street feel. But as it goes up and out, that's not what the focus is. It's really important that home ownership is a big part of this, and that single family homes are part. There's also, the types of housing mixes can vary as it goes up, but in terms of 4 stories, which is our cap, it's going to be along the main streets. So I just want to make sure that, when we hear about the density that we're getting, I think people just imagine that it's density everywhere. And really what it is, it's compact density, it's a lot of open space, and then it's single family. Just want to make sure that's clear. And if you have any questions on this. The second, we have some images of some multifamily and the kind of the case study of more comments that we have.
So Jeff, I'll ask. So while you're building, while you're phasing this, what are you looking to accomplish with the phasing process as you're building? Are you looking at a little bit of everything, housing wise, or are you looking at something specific first, more single family, that kind of thing? What do you anticipate?
Yeah, I think so. First phase is probably the most complicated because you sort of have to create the identity of the place. So you should have a diversity of product types. But home ownership creates better than anything. So it's really important that people can purchase homes. So in terms of phasing, that's important. But for us, as we're going through and kind of figuring out phase 1, the idea is to start on 12th Street right now. That's where a lot of the infrastructure is. So there's more intense development there, and then as we go north in that phase, then the second, actually, let's jump back to go to the open. So open space was talked a lot about in this public meeting. So we're required per the development agreement to provide almost 92 acres of open space. One of the comments we got was, well, you're not showing any open space. And my response was, well, I'm not showing any houses in the concept plan either. It's a high level concept plan, but it's really important that open space is everything. Again, if you go back to the traditional neighborhood principles, it's all about the public and creating community space. And so we have 92 acres that were required. We had our architects kind of just on a concept plan of what we're trying to create, it far surpasses. So where that lands, we don't know, but we know we have. So we also have, if you've seen this before, the Emerald Necklace, we had the architects we talked about having a skinny river corridor that then enters into an area of more intense energy. This is one of those. If you scroll next, it kind of details what something like this could look like. This is a section of river that's on the concept plan. Again, this is conceptual, but the idea is that a street would terminate into a park that's on the river, and then we really engage the river. And so the idea would be on this trail, this river corridor trail, you come down and then you're able to come into an area that has more energy, more community space, and then get back on that trail with another node that would also have some energy and some community space. So, like this, you could have a soccer, one of the comments was there's no soccer. Here's a concept. We could drop a soccer field in here, and that would be a great area. Yeah, and see if you can kick it across the river. Yes. We have an image. The slough is going to be a big part of this. One of the comments when we showed a picture at the open house, and one of the comments was, "Well, you're not actually going to build it." Well, this concept is actually based on the concept plan, and that is actually the depth of the slough. So this is looking eastward. Again, conceptual, but this is based on traditional. There's another. This is more kind of typical of the neighborhood space, but again, mostly single. And then go to the farm. Let's go back to the concept.
Yeah. Move on. Would you say any of what you see in that picture is multifamily?
It could go back to that.
This picture?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have that.
So there could be duplexes. There could be fourplexes, but if you go to, there's an image that we have. And again, it's closer to, you go out and it's less dense, but I think that's a fourplex. And the idea is that you have multifamily, single family, that they all feel cohesive, they're supposed to be. And instead, what we do right now with development patterns is we shove all the high density in one little space, which has its own problems and creates its own environment that I think a lot of people don't like. And when we were at the open house and people were talking about they don't want apartments, they don't want that culture. Well, we don't want that either. It's not what we're, that would bring a stigma to the rest of this thing. So it's really important that there's diverse housing types, but that they're placed very close. If you go to the, so you don't know, we have an idea of where kind of a farm will be. And again, I think people can make fun of me and I appreciate, that this is probably not a farm that a working farm people are used to, but for us, paying respect to what this land has been for 7 generations is really important. Having a farm concept or some open space where people can feel like what it used to be, again, it's not going to feel like what it used to be, but having a farm element from an open space standpoint is really important. So again, that's part of people going to surpass open space. So those are some ideas on open space, and then the river corridor was another kind of hot topic. This idea that we're trying to minimize that for our own gain. For us, I think on the other side, they've argued ad nauseum. I think we've argued ad nauseum why this is important for us. But we're asking for a 100-foot minimum setback, and then in the development agreement, we need a ton of restrictions. We have to do a bunch of studies. And there's 2 things that we've heard are important in the river setback. One is safety. The flooding is really important, and that's really important. Try to dairy a lot of this. And we have a hydrologist that created kind of some steps that should happen if you build closer to the river, and we're saying we have a 100-foot minimum setback. If we build within the 300-foot setback, we have to meet from a safety standpoint. From a community standpoint and kind of open space, again, if we go back to that kind of that park diagram, it's really important for us that the river corridor is a huge amenity for this development and for the greater community. And we think the best way to do that is to have narrow corridors, transportation corridors that open up into concentrated areas of parks and places that people gather and then jump in. So I don't know if there's any other conversations around the river. We feel like we have a good plan. Again, if you go back to like the basis of why we're doing this, the principles of why we're doing this, it is all about the community space. That's sort of the foundation. And so the idea that we're not providing open space doesn't make a lot of sense to us because that's a huge point. And again, from a granular standpoint, as we get into it, different phases will provide different opportunities. We're not showing all of our open space very detailed right now, but conceptually, we have the amenity of the river, we have the amenity of the slough, and then within the neighborhood, it's really important to have parks. So, anyway, that's kind of all we had tonight to address and kind of report back what we saw from the open house, and then if there's anything else.
I got a question. I'm going to drag Gary in if you don't mind for a second. Yeah. Gary, you okay with that? Okay. So the conversations have been going on and on and on about the river corridor. And I know that you had some real reservations about the 100 feet. So with everything that's in the master development agreement, are you getting more comfortable with the west corridor?
It's a loaded question.
No, it's not. It's an honest, open question. It's really yes or no, and a little bit of explanation either way. Not the answer. Initially, broad brush. Tough to predict what events will. Been through the model, studying with them. Say ultimately, am I more comfortable with it? I'm being honest. I don't know. Seeing events that represent 1,500-year events. I think only time will tell. And there were so many factors that led into the biggest event we had 2 years ago. We had incredibly dry soil moisture. We had low empty reservoirs. There's so many things that were factored in that saved us during the years. Runoff event, that it was like a perfect condition to stay out of it. Woke up many mornings thinking that was calls at 4, 5, 6 in the morning. That's genuinely. So I'm not sure how to answer that. I mean, does that give you the context of my feelings? It does, because you've softened a little bit. And that's what I was wondering about. At least that's what I'm interpreting. So here's I'll put it in a little bit different way. Because of the access that you'll gain to that river in one of the worst parts of the river for flooding, is there comfortability, a little more comfortable with that because of the fact that you can get in there now, you can do that, and you can get to a flood situation, but first and foremost, be proactive on doing some maintenance on that river on an annual or maybe at least every couple of year basis. So maintenance is another trick. this is part of the process. The engineering is really the foundation of the process. So, thank you.
Sorry, Andrew, on that subject, in our discussions about the river corridor, I think we've come to a fairly comfortable spot where, in exchange for basically Gary and I shut out the 300 or the 100, they'll look at, working on recontouring the river banks, saving the stands of trees that are there now. So it's not gonna be 100% recontour, but, looking at strategic locations to lay the banks back, provide for a lot more, volume ability, better bank stabilization, flip that.
Stabilization.
Yeah, flip that wrong way. Anyway, possibly even creating accesses to the river, like kayak access or boat access. So using the river as an amenity as well, which that'll really help with the high volumes on high water years. It also will just help in creating a community amenity that.
Right. Commissioner Wicker.
So, I think it's kind of cool, but I think this is beneficial to us both. If you know where the schools are going, that is very valuable to the concept that you're creating. And so what I'd ask is that you meet with the school district, and I've spoken with them, so with the idea, and they can, I'd like to see a letter, what the school district would expect from the development. So they would say, yeah, based on these numbers, we'd expect we need to build how many elementaries, junior high, high schools, whatever, and then work with you, let you know what kind of footprint they need for that, and then you could look and see where the community, the amenities, these schools would fit, and then donate that. It would be important to me that this school district, I don't know how to do it where they don't actually own the ground, because we can't have them swapping where it is. If you're donating it and it's your community, it needs to be where you put it, so we could put language in to make sure that the schools go where they're planned. But is that something you'd be open to?
Yeah, again, the neighborhood, kids works. And I think we're very open to that in terms of what type of school the district we work with. It has to match the vibe of the neighborhood. And my concern sometimes, and I'd love to talk to them, is, they have their, it's like dealing with, they have what they think is their standard, and they plop it in to, the commissioner's point of they spend tens of millions of dollars creating something that, so anyway, what I'm saying is we want the school. We want to meet the school district. We would like to have something for what that was.
And I think because it's a costly venture for them, whatever you're willing to contribute, I think they would be open to that. And if you have made a discussion where you can give ideas how to make a school that fits in the community, architecturally, and how to, a big piece of land is not great for community vibe. So if you have suggestions for how to get school areas more efficient, I think they'd be open to it. But I just love to have a discussion and then some sort of a recommendation from the school, a letter that we can read, and then we'll decide what we feel is appropriate to.
You want to speak a little bit to what they did in North Commons in that school?
Yeah, so when we visited that neighborhood, they basically created Meta Y, which is sort of a rec center and a school that shared amenities, so it wasn't such a huge footprint, and parents would come drop kids off from school and then also go to enjoy. Whether that works here in the future, but it was a really interesting concept, and it's probably one of the most successful models.
And we do have that in South Ogden currently. It's not quite the Y, but the city and the school, the city facility is connected to the school, and they have an arrangement.
Is that Weaver School District?
So it could be a talking point.
Yeah. Which school is it?
South Ogden Junior High.
Okay.
West Haven just did it with the new Mountain View, didn't they, too? With the gym.
The schools usually don't. The high schools generally.
Yeah.
or elementaries probably have that flexibility. High schools generally use their property 24/7, so it doesn't work as well, but from a junior high and elementary standpoint.
If we were school districts, school model stays the same as it has been, there's probably not gonna be any room in this development for a high school. Maybe an elementary school or a junior high.
Or maybe they should take some time in life.
I'll take the 92 acres of office.
I don't know, sell it for houses and build somewhere else.
And that's what we need to prevent.
Yes.
Does that happen?
Yeah, oh yeah, they invest.
I mean, how many residents in your subdivision do you expect? How many units?
Well, we're asking for 6 units and 15 acres. The plan, I mean, the other part of this is the actual concept plan. Really important, we have a portion to create a good neighborhood. You can't just, it's not all about this. So our concept plan, we don't get 6. But that's okay because we create the right portions in this.
So that's what I would love to see, and I think it would be beneficial to.
Was your plan to put a public school in here, or was you looking at like charter schools?
I don't know if we have,
Well.
yeah,
They're private.
I don't think we have, we don't have a plan. We want a school.
So the problem with the charter school is that, if you want the community to be walkable, and you want to be accessible to everyone in the community, charter schools would not accomplish that goal.
Yeah, again, I think we want a successful school. On the concept plan, that was it. Again, Gary may be looking at that's by the river. So, that may be in a different place.
Fishing for carp as well.
That's a small thing, and the school district is totally, they have beat up all of us, beat up the commissioner over a little gate. And so that's why they kind of created a bad case. So that's why I'm trying to be respectful and appreciative of the school district. The way they have treated the county has not been.
Well, and that's what I've done.
Other than that, I'm out.
You have to think about how the county has treated the school district. The county has approved development over development. Westridge, one of the master plan communities, will probably cost them $500 to $600 million to put schools in that. And they have absolutely no power in how much development we were trying to put on them. So I can see why it's been bitter on both sides, because they're in a position where they don't have money to maintain their current school. And yet nobody wants to approve bonds to build the schools that are needed or to keep the current schools. So they have no money, and yet we keep adding more students.
Maybe if they were a team player and part of our discussion, they would know what's coming down the pipeline.
Okay, we'd love to broker a meeting with you guys.
Yeah.
I never been to their happy work level. Now.
loop back onto the proposal here on. Move on.
So I bet we will have this.
And I'd like to be there at that meeting.
Okay.
And I talked with them about it, I'm happy to.
And if there is an opportunity to start participating for the county and the school district to start working together a little bit, I think it'd be great. It's definitely what we need to have. And there should be communication and we should be able to have contacts and we should be able to shed off this bitterness and work together. I think it's important on both entities' behalf to do that. So anything you can do.
I'm happy to be that liaison. I don't have a history on either side, and I think the new administration has. So it's a great time to get us working together and not burdening each other.
And I think the first thing you need to do at some point in time is have a meeting either with commission, planning commission, staff, and just to get past whatever it is we need to get past here. Because I think it's vital that there's some communication, open and honest communication, and not one-sidedness on either behalf. Anyway, we'll move on from there.
Yeah, anything else?
Not only through development, I got one. Okay, no point to start tonight, but next work session I'll be done. Okay.
Up next, was it in March you wanted to come to the town?
We got a session.
Oh, the right.
That's a two-meeting month. Commissioners, anything else? Staff?
Same thing, so I've got stacks of paper for you guys. It's gonna be a wonderful month.
Charlie, you're killing us. Sorry. Thanks for your time. Business is good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Planning commissioners, do any of you need another copy of the development agreement? Just one? What's that? Yeah, this is the same one that we handed out last time.
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Got a whole stack.
You're just gonna film.
Yeah, recycle. Now, keep in mind, this is the draft that the developer has provided to us. It's also the most updated draft.
I want to
developer.
do mine.
Yeah, we'll get them
Oh, Charlie,
when I
not yours.
have them. Actually, I think that's going to be a good segue for our next work session next month. I'm going to try and get you guys my comments before that meeting, so we can work through it. Liam and I have already started comparing notes. We definitely have some comments. We have some notes. But, when you read the development agreement, it's going to look very, not very, they've actually done a pretty good job compared to others, but it's going to look very developer centric. When we write development agreements, it's very county centric. This is technically a county document, not necessarily their document. And so we're going to want to maybe tone down some of the developer gets and the county gives dialogue. If you read between the lines, it really isn't a ton different than, it's just the way that it's being presented. And their attorney is obviously trying to represent. Liam and I will knock some of that down. We've got a few sections that we've already started doing that. So, okay.
Okay, ready to move on. Next item, WS2, discussion regarding zoning map amendment application. Concept plan for a project named the Bitten B zoning map amendment, which proposes to change zoning from agriculture A1 to residential R115. Project covers an area. There's roughly 31 acres that spans the distance between 4100 West and 3600 West. Street and pathway design would focus on the current condition of 4100 West Street and 3600 West. Could help guide the discussion. Okay.
Thank you. I have two slides to share. I would imagine I'll be assigned to the project manager, but I think I would mostly be here to just kind of present some maps and some information. We have the developer, the applicant with us in the audience as well. Good. So,
Do we bring it to the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
You guys will come up.
Felix, can you help me understand just the north or south of this? Because we have two west, right, between north.
Yeah, you know where West Weaver Elementary School is? If you go east and a little bit north.
Right there. So there you got the school. Yeah, so here's the property. It's spread out a little bit, spanning some distance. They have provided a road system fee out. And their plan is pretty standard for just the R115 as far as residential development. That's their focus. It looks like they have a pretty good road layout, well, some pathways. I made some comparisons with the general plan to just ensure that this road generally follows the planned alignment for future streets, neighborhood streets through this piece of land. And there's also some alignment, pathway alignments that would run along the canal there. And then I'll move on to the next slide here. Before I go, the topic of schools, I mean, it's really close to the school. You've got 4100 West Street. And so I would imagine that pedestrian access for a lot of these students would go right to the elementary school. And then a little greater distance for the high school. There's a church there on the corner of 900 South and 4100 West. And but as far as around right there too. They can build the junior high right there too. You got them covered. So as far as commercial opportunities, not a whole lot of access to grocery that's close by, but I think they would still have some opportunity to find something that's relatively close. They likely have to go into Ogden City for some of their looking at the current zoning map and their proposal to amend or change the zoning map to that R115 zone classification. The concept plan is concept plan. What they've done is they've pretty well addressed some of these stub roads to adjacent properties that are currently vacant and mostly just being farmed. And if the opportunity arises, their development would be able to connect in with not only utilities but those stub streets. There's it looks like on the west edge you have a pathway that runs along the canal. That cul-de-sac on the west side is something that typically we like to see roads stub. In this case, considering that properties to the south are developed, the potential for a road stubbing to 900 South Street from that location is pretty slim.
If one of those property owners said, hey, we want them to stub that, then I don't think the southern property owners are going to.
And so, as you can see, most of this road system would accommodate a single row of single-family dwelling lots. So, a lot of corner lots created on this design. But see here, as far as the condition of 4100 West, I wonder if that would be something that maybe Pat Burns could speak on to see if what type of improvements are existing on 4100, what type of utilities as far as the sewer plan, what's their planning for sewer and these water and secondary water connections would be. And let's see here. I think that's my last slide, but that kind of covers what I have to say. Any questions from me?
So, with the creative shapes of this development, most important thing that we wanted to do was we sat with Charlie and Felix and wanted the connectivity of roads, because the the worst thing I think is when developers come in and they develop their piece. They're one piece of ground and that's it, just has one weird subdivision, but connectivity is, and obviously that's Charlie's big thing too.
Oh, no, man, change that.
But that's the most important thing of this piece is future development as well. That's why it kind of looks interesting for what it is, but the connectivity was very, we spent quite a long time on it actually, of what future stuff, what different roads in and what it would look like and how we could put that together. So there was a lot of thought behind what could be put in there for 2024. But other than that, this is like Felix said, pretty standard. The rezone special or anything out of the ordinance. On 4100 west, we will have to put between 2 and 4 feet into the shoulder of asphalt to increase that size. Secondary water is just down there, sewer's right there, and coronary water, we want to loop it through over into 3800 west as well. There's also secondary on 3800 if we tie into and loop that. We're working with the secondary company right now to decide the best way to loop that system, or whatever they want us to do. It's next to it, sewer trunk line. It's back of these. So we did, that's a deep sewer. We wanted to keep that in mind of what we're doing, even better not to put it in the street. So we kind of moved some stuff and, a few different iterations of making this work. With that,
Why did you tie your road in the middle of that house and kick it over like that instead of bringing it straight out?
Which side?
That'd be the east side.
So I was actually gonna talk to you guys a little bit about that. We were hoping to push it as far north next to the house that's already there.
Where that lane is.
To try and find an opportunity for, let me see who's the owner. Should the owner of the property next door, hang on, let me.
you talking here?
Mm-hmm. So looks like Joseph Herrick. Should they want to develop or other landowners in that area on the east side, 3600 want to develop, we're going to want to look at access. We've already got quite a bit of development along 3600. We're getting access to the back farms is going to be a challenge. And so finding the ways to snake roads around houses as opposed to through them, I think would be appropriate.
I just know that would really suck to have that all of a sudden road come right in the middle of your house instead of hitting it one way or something.
If you look, it's just off the screen, but the house is pretty far to the south on that lot. But they've got a front pasture that we could potentially put. We really probably should give Mr. and Mrs. Herrick because ultimately, if they'd rather have that on the south side and have it from here to the south, that'd be, well, actually, no, that wouldn't work because you've got here, you got Riverbend.
Yeah. I'm representing the Herrick family.
Please.
And working with Pat on this.
Yeah.
Can you zoom
Wait, is that a conflict with them?
No conflict.
I'm just kidding.
So, and on it?
Yeah, let me see if I can bring it in. A little more, is that okay?
I think that's good. So is the question in regards to this right here, this road here? Why you kicked it over? Instead of just come out straight at a property line. Yeah, so this is my uncle's home. This is my grandparents' home. They no longer living. Ross owns, his property comes right back to this farm area here. And so, and his property line is close to here, so, I mean, ideally we wanted to create a little bit of buffer for him, but also make, this road not be just right next to his driveway. So, there's plenty of space here along the south side of the Herrick property. But Ross is gonna be able to this piece right here.
additional phase.
It'll actually increase the size of it.
It's the aerials equal side. It's this lot right here, so the house is hugging the south side of that lot. So our request when we looked at the original markup was to maybe bump it to the north so that there's a possibility for it to go north of that house on that lot, if there is a road connection. We would say stay south, but if you keep going straight, you got Riverbend subdivision, that's on the other side of the slough, which makes no connection, so we were trying to stay on the north side to possibly connect into some of the bigger properties, east of there, to give those landowners an opportunity if they should choose to take that in the future.
Is that any help at all? Cause I can also go to the map.
No, it makes more sense. I'm good now. I thought that was a house that it was stepping right into, that main thing you could see on the top of it.
Oh, yeah, it's not.
And with the road behind it, with Riverbend, we're kind of tapped there anyways. There's not a future connection there going, more than likely not a future connection going on the east side, so.
And this was before we had Riverbend was before we had a really big push for connectivity, plus we've got that slough that goes through there. And
No, my comments are mute point then.
My bigger concerns here are on 36 and 41, we've already addressed 41. To a certain degree, to the degree you can, but are you planning on doing anything up on 36? So Nelson has improved the majority of 36 up to theirs. We'll improve the rest if we, whatever, if it doesn't meet the full width, the full width of the asphalt. And they've brought it all the way up, and then, like I said, I believe we're still working with the secondary water if they want us to loop secondary.
Google guy.
It's not me.
It's a picture of the sun. Funny.
Commissioner? Anything else?
I really wish it was just a bigger parcel. I don't like, and also the width of it, just, I hate putting something like that in. It doesn't look like great. I mean, they've done their best to make it look good, to make it good development, but. Not the best.
We're working on that. Try some more land. I'm trying. Yeah.
Keeping in mind that if they don't get the opportunity to the other properties, when those other property owners do choose to develop, the codes administratively, even on an administrative level, the codes say they've got to pick up the sub properties and continue them through. But if they want to rezone them, so hopefully it just, you don't even notice that there is a property boundary because of the steps, originally because of the steps, yeah.
And the stubs match the future plans.
Generally speaking, we don't have a ton of granular detail, for the general plan, but yeah, Felix went over and make sure that we're pretty well lined up, and then, Felix, we pull up their concept again. They've got a north-south road, that we think is right about between, 3600 and 41, which would be a really great residential cut, like a road that has a pathway. There you go.
I think don't those roads curving like that meet your standard where it slows people down?
We want a little more curves, but yeah, and blocks don't have.
Curve like a river.
Yeah. Yep, that looks good.
And there's gonna be a stub everywhere it's showing. Cause I thought I heard someone mention before that the property owner to the south might dictate where those stubs are.
This is just on the cul-de-sac.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, gotcha. Thanks, Joe.
There's not a whole lot of space.
No.
So unless somebody wanted to get through there.
Right. No.
We talked a little bit more about stubbing this into here, but this is a pretty big opportunity for a regional pathway connection along the canal or the ditch that's there. The Hooper Canal runs here, so that's supposed to be
mean, long term. That is the. Yes, of course. So long term, we can have less crossings of that, you're gonna have a lot safer pedestrian. I mean, at some point that can be a pedestrian highway of sorts. Long time. Any other questions, direction? Commissioners? Pedestrian highways. Let's see, Worksession Regional Council, there are two big pushes right now from the state on creating a statewide trail network. Just like it's a statewide, we have a statewide highway network, we want to create a statewide trail network that connects all communities to each other from border to border at some point in the future. They've already started, they've got, I want to say it's 50 million a year that they've got allocated to this effort. And it's supposed to be per year ongoing unless the legislature changes that. So we've been working with them to identify the areas that we think would be really good spots for those to go. And basically, we're just giving them the general plan saying, if you see where the trails are, pick the ones that you want UDOT to have as your trail highways. Yeah. You have something you want to add? Like I did. Oh, sorry. No, it's good. I think the sloughs and the canals and the things that are immovable have been there for a long time and will probably continue to be there. Those are really good alignments for these pathways to go. And they're good for hunting too. Lots of mosquitoes. Big mosquitoes. We usually use Ooh. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Item 3, discussion regarding the zoning map amendment application and associated development agreement for the Westbridge Meadows rezone. The master plan development that will rezone approximately 1,400 acres of property located within the area between the Weaver River and 7,500 West and south of the Union Pacific Railroad. The zone being proposed will include a master plan development overlay zone, MPDOZ, and may include a variety of single family dwelling R1, two family dwelling R2, multi-family dwelling R3 zones, as well as a form-based zone FB mixed uses, and the neighborhood commercial zone C1, and or may include the creation of a new master plan development zoning designation that is unique to the proposed development. Felix, looks like you're up again. It's Lucky Felix on this. Oh, Phoenix, sorry. Felix, yeah, you can go Felix. I didn't get I was waiting for the response. Because I know who Phoenix is. Hang on 1 second. Technology lined up. Excited to be back. I think the last time we met was like before the break, and I think we all generally felt pretty comfortable to move to hearing, but we spent the last couple months making a couple of changes to the plan, and then we also were able to circulate a draft of the development agreement. And so after the changes we made, we felt like it'd be the right thing to come talk about a couple of those changes and get feedback, and hopefully we have some consensus. I'm actually pretty excited to highlight the changes, but I think they're very, very beneficial, not only to the community plan as a whole, but for the county as well. So give me a second here while I get logged on. A little bit more area that's third map in, a little bit more area shown in the form-based zone, which is north of the railroad track.
Whether or not that is part of this, development in the future. I mean, there's obviously a lot of parcels in there, so it's a different dialogue, different conversation. And there is, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, one parcel within this project where, Jeff is working on getting final, consensus with the owner and family. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So,
And happy to dive into any of those details.
when you get this in front of you in a public hearing, we'll have legal description attached to it. And if it excludes one of the larger parcels, it won't necessarily take away from the intent. We'll just probably have a little paragraph in the development agreement that says, as other properties in the area come on board, this will pertain to those.
So on the West Weaver corridor, and Jeff, sorry.
Yep. Oh, you're right. Go ahead. No, sorry. Okay. So since the last time we met, relatively unchanged except for a couple of items. And again, what we were, I think that the last couple of work sessions we've had, both here and with county commissioners, we've really tried to highlight how much of a old development it's 1400, right? So a lot of houses, but this is, and what we're proposing is, will be and will become the second city center for Weaver County. And so, we've just spent a lot of time, I would say, over the last 6 months. Obviously, we spent a lot of time with the zoning changes that that were approved here just in the last few months, and that was that was a big win, I think, for all parties concerned, for us to be able to move forward. But we really want to spend a lot of time on the commercial component because it's not small, it's huge, right? And so we are talking city center level, planning and city center level square footage and retail and everything, right? Where I know a lot of the developments, that you guys, that you all see have small commercial components. This is rather large, right? And we intend and have spent a lot of time and effort into refining the city center concept and laying it out appropriately so that we don't have to, that we don't have to come back every couple of years. We want to get it right the first time. And so with that said, there was two things that came out of the conversations that we've had, not only in our work sessions that we've all had, but certainly in no small part with Charlie and Gary in relation to street plans. And so the general plan industrial byway, and that industrial byway showed it coming south of the project and kind of right through the middle of Ogden Bay, right? And we met with them several times, and that never received. And so we were all get the industrial byway into the project, and so we got it. So we finally went ahead and we laid this out. So you'll see here on the very south of our project here. So the concept here is, and the hope, right, is that the West Weaver corridor is the chosen corridor from UDOT. But regardless, even if UDOT doesn't choose our corridor, this will still be a major arterial that runs through the project. And so with that extension through the project, and then you can see we can kick off here, we come through with the industrial byway, which according to the general plan will continue west from hook up into the port area, or the inland port area over the north. So what we did is, oh, by the way, cool. We added a school section. I thought. Would be. Well, you know, I mean, we had that same conversation, right, about school sites and being really tall. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Anyway, it is our intention to. School site. So with this, that's the big change. And another big change that we are bringing to the planning commission tonight is we are proposing that we shrink our corridor along the river from 300 foot to 100 foot. Okay. Maybe 1,600 foot back to 1,800. I will pull that up here in just a moment. You're the man. We actually do it. We have a plan. We have a, but, so this corridor, so we'll talk about Weaver River in a minute, but the biggest reason for that change, and by the way, so we took, this is the city center. Previously, we had the city center kind of laying north along the tracks. And we just couldn't get there from a city center perspective. And in laying it out and having our commercial folks come to bear. And so we started laying it out this way. And this is just where it belongs. And it belongs here for a lot of the reasons that, you know, we can talk about in depth, but when we talk about this with our commercial folks, right, pinning that city center and putting it in this section here with direct access right up to what would be a light rail stop, just laid out perfectly. But we needed some room, right? And without, you know, we're certainly not trying to be, you know, disingenuous here. We have talked to the folks, the Black Pine Group about their 100 foot. And then our experience in development as well. You know, we've done several developments down in Utah County and Salt Lake County along the Jordan River, and a much wider corridor we don't feel is the answer. We feel the answer is a much more narrow corridor, so that when you're actually on the trail, you're seeing the river as opposed to 300 feet away from the river, and who knows what happens in between that trail. And it becomes really, really difficult to manage. I know there was some conversation about the management of the river. So that's our change. Those are our two big changes that we wanted to bring. Industrial byway, shrink this, bring our form-based code city center. We're still going to leave a note up here because there's a potential for a second light rail stop. Our own personal opinion is we don't think that's going to happen. We think there's just going to be one. But if there is two, great. We've got a note over there with form-based commercial. But that's our layout. You know, maybe we do have a concept for 1,800 south, because the reality is we think any of us know where it's going to go, right? And so the development agreement that we've made a draft of, we're actually still wordsmithing the actual roads section. What we will be committing to in development agreement is, you know, obviously we're dedicating, you know, the corridor, and we will be committing in phase 1 or phase 2, which really phase 1 and phase 2 have to be built in conjunction with each other in order to satisfy all the code. He's coming down here on 20 and connecting to 2550 south. This connection up here really doesn't happen until several years down the road. And we know, you know, that there's a lot of work to be done on connectivity as it heads east. But I do have and I'll throw it up here in a second, but we do have a concept drawing that will be included because really the language in the development agreement is going to say 1,600/1,800, right? Understanding that it's going to land somewhere. And that would be the second crossing across the river. So those are the two big changes that we wanted to bring to the group. You know, and
actually enjoyed listening to the other conversations. You know, we actually have laid out our parks. I agree with what, you know, the presentation that we heard earlier about animating the river. We agree with that. That's why we've got two of our larger district level parks on the river. And feeling like that's gonna be a really great option, so. Anyway, those are the two big changes. Nothing else really changed as it relates to the number of units. We did all this shifting around and it remained virtually identical. I think we gained 10 units, I think is all we gained. So we really, you know, we gained some space here. We shifted it, moved it around, gave some additional byway access, and that's where we stand today. So love to hear any questions and thoughts. Yeah.
Refresh my mind on the
Crossings on the road. So we've obviously got, you know, the core, right? And as it relates to others, let's see, traffic studies, right? As we move forward, you know, if it demands that, it'll have to happen. But you know, what we want to avoid is, you know, similar to what we see coming in downtown here, right? You know, tons of bridges over the railroad. We would love to avoid that, which is why we're, you know, we're looking east, only looking in order to improve access, right? Good question.
So on the West Davis corridor, portion as how it relates to the bridge at the railroad tracks. And then you got a bridge that has to cross the river. What are you anticipating? Are you anticipating one of those bridges first before the other one?
So the first bridge, so the way you will see the language in the development agreement is, this will be our first point of access, 7500 West, which will go out, and this will be our second point of access. After that, what we are committing to is bridge here, but timing and phasing will be dictated by so many factors, right? Market, traffic studies, we're committing to, you know, traffic studies that you can't remember what we committed to, but very frequent additional traffic studies. Because, you know, the other issue that's gonna happen, as we all know, everything that happens to the east of the river and as it develops is gonna affect us. We understand.
Couple things to think about it from the transportation perspective. I want to emphasize what Jeff said. The roads and transportation section of the development agreement isn't quite fleshed out yet. So if you get reading through it and you wonder where that is, it's still coming. And then the other thing, as Jeff mentioned, we wanted to negotiate routine review of transportation and access, including all the way down 2550 even as it affects adjacent cities like West Haven. And so one of the things that we've asked for or mentioned is at the point the county observes material degradation at any intersection, we'll have the opportunity to work with the developer to figure out how much of that is the developers through a traffic study, and then have the developer contribute a proportionate share of their effect on that intersection. That also allows the county to identify which intersections we should be really focusing on in our impact fee facility plans on rebuilding and reconstructing. So the goal is that once those intersections are getting to a point that they're a challenge, we've already got a plan to rebuild and reconstruct so the traffic isn't a problem.
So we're gonna allow them access, we're gonna allow them to start building an access beyond 7500. Or will the river bridge and, so the 2550 connection and 7500 come at the same time?
So what we've worked out so far is they can't, they have to have an emergency egress in order to start on the 7500. So if that emergency egress is the river bridge, then is what it is.
This bridge. Yeah, so to be clear, right, we have in the right towards the end, right, there's a phasing plan that really highlights phases 1 and 2. Because really that's all that's clear to us right now. By the way, that's the 1800 south option. So, I love it. We don't know.
sorry, that makes for a really, really long bridge, but you know what, like I said, that there's gonna be a lot of engineering that happens. And a lot of things will dictate where that ends up, right? But like I said, in our development agreement, and this exhibit will also be part of the package, and it's gonna land somewhere in there.
So they're a little different.
Well, the big thing is it keeps that alignment going. We have too many issues in history, especially on this part of the county. Look at where 31st Street then turned into Hinckley, and it dead ends to nowhere. You gotta clear over to 4,000. You got the same problem at 21st Street. At least West Haven's now hopefully fixing 21st to hook it into 1800. And that's why to tie this into a 1600 alignment, learn from our mistakes of the past and
Yeah, don't put another bend in that road further west, because we already got a hell of a bend in it coming up 1800 to get over to 21st.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of negotiating, for lack of a better term, to get to where at least it's going to finally meet up with somewhere to go. And really, the only reason that we're saying we're fine with this. So just for the sake of conversation, our preliminary engineering, tells us from a site perspective, this alignment works better anyway. Because once we hit this area, we gotta start ramping up anyway. We gotta get over the tracks. So this alignment actually works better. So we're not opposed to it at all. We just don't know what's gonna happen. And so, we feel like ambitiously, this is probably 10, 15 years ago. So, well, the nice thing I like about it compared to the other one is look at your spacing. You've got Belt Street, you've got 1800, you've got that byway, there's, pretty equal distance. Just through there, I think your spacing of those major roads, 18 to 2550, it's just about right. And then 4,000.
Well, it's when I see them go very much further west, given all the state grant, but still, I think it fits.
Question, yeah. Yeah. Starting on 7,500.
Yeah.
So, I'll have to refresh my memory. I think phase one is a total of around 800 homes in phase one, and phase two is like an additional 500 homes, and so collectively phases one and two. And again, in the packet, it's at the very end where we identify these two phases, which really is this. This is phase one and two, right? It goes like this. Because we've got kind of put 800 residents entering on to 7,500. No, yeah.
No, we're gonna require at least an egress, and then we will require, as the building goes on, we will require them to build that egress to full standard, which will very likely, if they're looking for cost savings, it will very likely be the alignment of 2550 or 18. Or 18, yep, yeah, they could build to either one of those, just to make sure we got a second way out.
So where's our second egress? Right here. So phase one can't be built without phase two is what we're getting at. We're identifying phase one and phase two, but by development agreement, we can't even build phase one without having made this connection that will ultimately connect. That makes more sense. So, and so, matter of fact, last time we were here, we made a comment and said, we're excited to get out because then we actually have real problems that we actually get to go solve. Right now, everything's hypothetical, it's conceptual, but we have done enough engineering, and we've had conversations with property owners over here, and in no small part, right, a huge direction from the county that this is the more desired connection. So we went ahead and said, this is right. This is the right connection for us to make. It obviously isn't going to be, 300 foot right away. It's going to be a smaller bridge, but it gets access and it will satisfy, what we need to be able to provide from an egress perspective and traffic studies.
we'll back that up. But that's where the development agreement comes in. Identifying phase one, identifying phase two, can't do one without the other. Gotta do both connections. Does that answer? Okay.
There's possibly a little bit of flexibility in that second egress as well. We wanted to make sure in the event they've got a hard time getting across the river on the other side or 2550 or floodplain. There's a lot of challenges to get there. That they could feel free to go north and put the bridge over the railroad track to 12th Street. The only caveat to that is we don't want to see the level of service on 12th Street drop below unacceptable level of service. Now, the engineers will tell the transportation engineers will tell us unacceptable level of service is when it drops below level service D. Level service D is very different than what people out there experience right now. They experience like A+ right now, even during high truck traffic time. So level service D is, if I remember right, it's like the average wait time to get onto the right of way is 2 minutes. That's a problem. We didn't want it to get to a level service D even there. So in the development agreement and through our discussions, we've been talking about how we don't want to see either 12th Street, 1800 or 2550 drop below level of service C before one of those other road connections are being made. So in other words, if they did connect up over the railroad and connect to 12th Street, they're not dropped below that level of service before either 1800 or 2550 construction has started.
And the reality to that is, you know, once we reach that stage of approval and we turn loose, you know, the engineers, we will study both. We'll study both. We just, you know, we've been doing this long enough to where we feel like the 2550 south option makes the most sense. We feel like it's going to be the right thing, but we will look at that. But, you know, we also, the level of service is what we feel like is probably the biggest constraint into dumping out on the but, you know, we're excited to get out there and study.
They've got a slightly bigger challenge with the port and all the different other stuff out there. I mean, they don't have control fully over what level of service is being provided on that road. So, yeah, I think it's probably in their best interest to go 25.
Well, with this right here, if, as, like you said, they have no control, but if this does start to develop out here in the industrial area,
we make that
this connection,
Yep.
makes free, and that's what our area has to have, because everything ultimately goes north and south, right, Commissioner Aydelotte? So we're the only ones running late.
Only takes out 500 pound ball. Bad.
Yeah.
Well, when you think about it, whether it's 1800 or the industrial byway, whatever it may be, that you're right, that will alleviate a lot of impact on 12th Street. Hopefully 12th Street stays a nice 3-lane road for quite some time. Hopefully we don't have to worry too much about 12th Street, except for maybe some turn pockets at intersections and maybe a couple of signals.
It comes back to that balance that Commissioner Edwards mentioned. It comes back to that balance and spacing. It gets that spacing and spreads that traffic out over multiple roads headed to the free.
The benefit of master planning, just in case anyone hasn't seen that time. And we can do all of this, and we're working with a developer putting some commitments down. If we weren't master planning this, we'd be working with dozens, if not hundreds, of developers trying to figure out how do we make this work without impacting the taxpayer who currently lives here.
And we've been meeting with the inland port folks on the regular, right? So, I mean, the Marriott obviously, and then the Litchfield group who's got, you know, the big 1,000-acre piece just here a little bit to the west, and we meet with them on the regular. We compare notes, we share, we show what we're doing, because it benefits, right? It does benefit. Part of it, for sure. As we all know, the west side is, you know, that is true pioneering.
As far as the freeway, the large freeway kind of style roads go, we're not asking the developer to install those, we're asking them to reserve the space for them to be installed and then provide their own roads within that right of way until UDOT or the county is ready to come in, or the port is ready to come in and build whatever highway needs to be built.
Question.
Yes.
On that corridor, how are you gonna preserve crossings from your commercial zone over to your residential zone? What's are you gonna have overpass, underpass? What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Well, overpass, yeah, it'll be more. So it's pumps, underpasses. Well, you're just pretty, you're random. So you'll obviously, until such a time that UDOT commits, I mean, this will be at grade. But I can also tell you again, that's 10 years down the road. So we will also be meeting, which, again, it goes back to that comment where we say, once the approval comes through, then everybody has, like, all of a sudden it becomes real, meaning UDOT will actually sit down and start talking to us, right? Until such a time, they just don't.
Yeah, well, more dimensions we have planned, the more likely
Yes,
that will provide those.
Yeah.
In their.
Because what I'm saying is, like, I'm not gonna build this at grade unless we have a conversation, it's gonna be, yeah, and more than likely it'll be an overpass situation, and then that's gonna affect my engineering. We're not gonna make that move until we have those robust conversations with them, which, just happen once everything gets ready. Once we study this selection gets made, that's when I feel like, that's when we feel like you got really. Okay, all right. Well, I don't want to see you build a community without the right plan, which you're doing, and then see it get cut in half. Oh, yeah. By that. Agree with them. Yeah. So I hear you. And that is part of the reason why we just made this shift, right? So, because we originally had this, this piece was running this way, we didn't like that, right? That didn't make a lot of sense. So city center here, obviously, and then, this is new, this ring road right here, that is new. And that is in an effort to not like bifurcate or.
If you look at the distances between the roads that will cut through, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think the distance, if I remember right, Jeff, from the railroad to the river crossing is about a mile. So you're talking about, across every quarter mile or so. But from a trail perspective, you've even got some trails, areas that cross over, so you'll have even better pedestrian connectivity over time.
Yeah, a lot of trails, which, again, we're excited about that. So, yeah, anything else, commissioners?
Question going, I hate to, going back to the river stuff with, sorry.
Yeah.
But this is a naive question, it might come across direct, and I hope it's not offensive, but I'm wondering if there's the concern with, I feel like we've given every possible solution for the river issue. Is the concern now that we will have access, but now we're gonna be forced to take care of it, we won't have somebody else to blame for it?
You mean, why are we backing from 0 to 1?
No, why we're still getting somebody on the county side that's still hesitant.
Oh, it's still more than one somebody's, but,
Well, yeah.
we've heard a lot of different things that you guys are okay with the idea. It's just access to opportunity for the future, from my perspective. Once it's gone, it's probably not gonna come back, but, there are a lot of externalities that run with that, a lot of negative consequences that run with that. How much space do you want homeless people to be able to encamp and hide? That's true. Look at the Jordan River.
And for some context on that, I'm glad you brought that up. We developed a large 350-acre master plan community on the Jordan River. And this was already pretty established, right? But it's still a robust conversation, right? We're pathways in relation to the river, and I think I learned, right? And for a lot of concerns, because the Jordan River folks learned a lot, right? Because there are some wide swaths, and then you get down to what we consider to be more reasonable.
And again, at the end of the day, it really turns out to be management, right? Because 300 feet, there's a lot that can happen in 300 feet that probably doesn't need to happen. And so the 100-foot buffer, I mean, our development was 70 feet off the river at our trail, and it turned out great, right? Because like I said, you actually feel like you're following the river, if that makes sense. Where, you know, you widen that out, and then all of a sudden that trail doesn't feel like a river trail anymore, right? It feels like an inland trail that you can see the water. So anyway, that's I think what you're hearing from a couple of developers is, you know, just past experience that we've seen and what we feel. And then, you know, because it's a great amendment. And we really want to highlight
somebody that's very lucky to have some time line their access and I mean 20 hours plus a week.
Sure.
Not everybody gets that opportunity. I'd love for it to stay the way it is, so I can continue doing it. However, when I think about that, what I like to do on the river, 300 feet is a good one. So why not give everybody the access that I take with my family on the trails that are right here next? I feel like the only thing that would be concerning is the safety. If it's really not a safety issue, it's just that we don't want to manage that's an issue.
No, some people think it's a safety issue. I do not. You can engineer it.
Matter of fact, when we went on the tour, when we all drove down there and we looked at the one community in American Fork, and for that matter, Vineyard as well, right? So we dealt with Utah and a very similar issue, right? So there's high water mark and we were dealing with that. And then there's a large buffer between the Utah Lake and this high water mark. And anyway, I'm just saying, I agree with what Charlie's saying, is we pushed that line as far as our engineers would allow us, mainly because we felt confident and you know, you guys were able to see the community built, and you know, the buffer it's still there, which by the way is beast to manage, and you know, because it is a couple 100 feet to the lake. But anyway, the engineers, what can be done with soils these days is fabulous, and I think it makes a lot of sense to do something change. No, I'm glad you did.
That is just directly north of this, within less than a quarter of a mile. What this is doing is opening that river up so that it can be moved. You're getting the corner here now, it's going along. We've never had that has led to cost for the river because it hasn't been able to be maintained because there is no access to it. So he's going to get beat up. The other developer that was here earlier is going to get beat up. That there's access to that river to maintain this. And I think that controls your flooding on its way. That's what is that now we can maintain it. It's never been maintained. That's right. That's the problem. But they had somebody to blame and now
So I just 100% agree with what Andrew said. It's about the maintaining the river. And the beautiful thing about the way water flows in Utah is we know when the water's going to come. We can predict it. We know what the snowpack is. It's very easy to go in and do extra maintenance on those years instead of planning for the 100-year event and having huge swath of land so that maybe in 100 years it'll flood. We just plan to really maintain it.
We have to.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I mean, for life.
You're the one that turn into your tax.
Turn it
into these things.
About 75%.
I know.
The one thing I like about this, I'm gonna go on the river for a minute.
Yeah.
I just come back from San Antonio.
Oh, yeah.
That river corridor, granted, they don't flow nothing like what we can flow here, but it can be done. Look at Chicago.
The river corridor goes underground through their downtown.
Yeah, the Riverwalk is.
I mean, it's awesome.
But where it's exposed, the Riverwalk is pretty awesome.
I mean, the things are changing rather quickly in our community out here. And to say that something like that could never happen, I mean, one of my favorite things growing up was going to have dinner at the Oaks and sitting out there and walking by the river.
You'll see in there.
have your open area, have your stuff, but like this city center that runs that whole edge of the river, I think it opens a whole bunch of possibilities for us, for stuff like that, that it brings a, almost a commercial aspect to enjoying that river.
Yeah, when we brought our commercial partner on board to really start analyzing this, I mean, they got pretty excited, right, about that, the vicinity of the river, all of it.
Anything you can do out there in the river is an improvement, because it's God ugly right now.
And by the way, this is, this little green piece right here is meant to, we need to get connected, right? There's a couple pieces of dirt in between until they develop. We're gonna do everything we can to get connected to Black Pine path that they will be building so that we can have, I mean, what is it? Is that 5 miles worth of river?
Yeah.
Yep. It'll be close.
At some point in time, if that's still a bottleneck, it won't be a bottleneck on a flood year, because it'll flush it right out of it.
Yeah.
If it's open on one side and it's open before it,
Yeah.
it'll create its own way through there.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't want it to happen that way, don't take me wrong, but that is what'll happen. I mean, talk about how nature works. It's gonna carve its way through there.
Well, and work, right? I mean, the hydrology that we've done, I mean, we have very intricate sloughs running through the property, which then in turn, end up coming back into the Ogden Bay. And we recognize the flood events, right? And we have done our analysis to say, look, there is going to be flood events, right? And so mitigating that as part of the community. And, so these sloughs that we will have, there's several through the property. But again, it's an opportunity for us to go open space, trails, and that's exactly what we are trying to, there's a lot more engineering to do, but the initial hydrology we've done has said, yeah, we get it.
If they're planning to use the sloughs to push the water faster, perhaps even around with the checks in Ogden Bay, in the event, for whatever reason, DNR, DWR feels like they don't want to. The other thing that we worked out, same thing with our friends to the north, is just working on the riverbank, as long as they're not required to hold a 404 or the Army Corps, just staying outside of that permitting thing, laying down those banks and providing greater capacity, greater volume to that riverway. And the friend said it, they're gonna be able to beautify it, because right now it's been cows for a long time, and not a lot of rain.
Don't have to flow. On this side, it's Great Farm on the east side, right through.
Yeah.
On the west side, it's
Nothing. Like it, yes, agreed. I mean, I guess that's, yes.
Soil that grows houses, is that what you said?
Yeah, that's a good thing. Maybe we can move the Gibson over there and say that. So anything else? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the last thing that I mentioned, on the overall site itself, so we've entered into a formal, joint venture with Flagship. Cameron wasn't able to be here today, he's out snowmobiling, not fair.
Got dragged in.
I enjoy doing it.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go. So anyway, we have, we've entered into a formal joint venture so that, and obviously we're still in the negotiation phase of the development agreement, but of the 1,400 acres, I just wanted to give you a real quick snapshot of where we stand as an ownership group. So we own almost half, so about 45% of that land we actually own, closed and have deed to it. Another 300 acres is under control, with the trigger being that we close once we reach our approval status. And then last remaining couple hundred acres will also just be a joint venture with a couple of and so, we have consensus with all the landowners. There is one last landowner that we're doing some negotiating with. We're confident, but I think the unique nature of this is
typically, we don't own this much land at this stage that we do. And that's how much we believe in the project and are very, very excited to get into the next phase, which is engineering. And see if we can get some fish built and make this a reality. So anyway, just wanted to make mention of that, you know, this is not a play where we're drawing pretty pictures and then going away. We're in it to win it, and we're excited to get into the next phase. So with that said, what we're hoping for, we would love to get on the next stage of getting it from the formal year. I'd love to hear what you think. We'd love to get there.
Same thing with the lifeline. We're protecting that.
We don't want to have a public hearing. So thank you. Yeah, yeah, right on. Yeah, so because it's us. It's not you. Yeah, it's us. We'll hear that in the meetings, what you're doing. Got it. When we're being, and really, it's you. What you're doing. Yeah. Well, I don't, I mean, it's two different projects. There's a lot of similarities between them for sure, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's, you know, it's been my experience that, you know, try to follow one meeting with two huge projects, right? So, these are unprecedented. So please don't. Yeah. And I say that seriously. I don't think that it's the right thing to do in one meeting. Right.
I think it's best for the community too, so they can process.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what it is. I mean, you know, you want the community to be able to, you know, come out and focus on one and not be worried about trying to get their thoughts straight for two. Yeah. So, but we want to break. Okay. Actually, that really. So, did I hear that right? They are going to go to hearing at the next, or are they going to do another work session?
It comes down to how much staffing resources it's going to take to get the agreement to the right way. The planning commission doesn't have to look at the final version of the agreement. Right. At the very least, wouldn't be giving you guys your credit if we didn't get them something that was pretty close to that. So if we've got the resources over the next month to get it here, I know Black Pine rather that does. My guess would be they're going to push really hard for March.
So, I guess, you know, regardless of where it lands, how do you feel? Planning feels about these big projects and overwhelmed, especially coming all at once.
My big concern is just making sure we get enough community contribution, because we're adding a lot of value here. Huge value to the land.
Contribution from the developer to the community.
No. We're allowing a lot of equity.
Sure.
But it's bringing a lot of value to the project. So I just want to make sure that we're getting commensurate contribution. I'm looking at
we're saying this.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the park space and donated space, and I'm like, ooh, I know there's a lot of infrastructure to go in there, but.
There's a lot of infrastructure.
But, yeah, I don't know.
Just so you know, when you're looking at the green spaces, those are the areas generally intended to be turned over to the park district. We do have something in the, they've asked for something in the development agreement that kind of gives the catch-all, just in case the park district doesn't stay solvent or something else happens. It's still a really small park district, but the best thing we can do is give them something to do, and then they'll stay solvent. And then the other part of that is they still are committed to 10 acres per thousand.
Yeah.
So the space will be there, it just will be in the form of smaller HOA parks. But we did talk also that each of these parks need to have at least a pavilion, at least a bathroom, at least a playground, at least a parking space.
So it's similar to what you have down here.
Yeah,
so I have that same thing down in the Yeah, Vineyard, American Park, well, you have your in-track parks, right, which are HOA controlled, that's part of the open space, but these are shown with the intent that they are district level parks, which, again, we are giving like a minimum level of what they can be, and then as we move forward with the district, or with the Parks District, right, we'll create, you know, the ball fields, the soccer fields, whatever that may be, at the district park level, with the intent that those then get turned over to them. But there are a lot of a tremendous amount of pocket parks, right, or whatever you want to call those. And then, you know, there'll be lots of amenity centers that, you know, accompany a lot of these communities as well, that, you know, usually are attached to a park.
Discussion parks, is that what you're calling? That's where you go when you want to really yell at each other, is out to the family discussion park.
There you go. Discussion park.
Hey, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it's mine, get out of here.
We're asking 7,500 contribution to the community per unit in our other development, so I just want to make sure this is somewhere close. I don't mind necessarily want to see more park space, because it is, you know, we don't want a lot of HOA. An HOA run is easier than having in the community. Discussing with the school, that's what I would like.
Sure. And up here on this east end by the river, if you ever could get access right along the river, or even maybe not, there's parks that Black Plains can have right across 900.
Right.
Keeping in mind that 7,500 per, that is intended to represent 10 acres per thousand.
Yeah.
So.
As long as we're keeping that, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, and I did, walk Jeff through our standardized development agreement template, where we do have kind of a prescribed amount of park amenities in there. And copied that language over to them to think about. I don't know that you're gonna see the developer putting in green ball fields anytime soon. It'll probably be the park district, and then they'll be able to start with their revenue, start building the green spaces, but at the very least having those playgrounds and the pavilions and the bathrooms and stuff like that provided by the.
I want the developer to be an integral part of that field as they phase. Sure. Just like what we have going on in JDC. I want that same process happening.
It's exactly what's on.
So, maybe Meadows, yeah.
And the DA's got some language around timing, right? So, you know, I mean, once you get this trigger and this trigger, you know, we're building, right? So we get it. You know.
And on the subject of public parks, the park district, especially with the homes that these guys are bringing, will have the ability to do an impact fee facilities plan, and create an impact fee. So every single home will have a statutory requirement to put money into a park fee. So that's above and beyond the quote unquote 75. I'm hoping it's okay. I sent it to Joe in the room. I sent the information over to Joe, so hopefully he's looking at the new layout. I think it's 2 more parts, 2 more district parts. That was kind of the exchange for the riverfront.
Yeah. Yeah. Not in the byway, right? Right. Good deal. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks. You take 5. Come back.
You could have had dinner, then showed up.
Sticking around.
Yeah.
Tammy was gonna stick around.
All good stuff. Very interesting.
Killed a lot of trees for no reason.
Sounds to me like before you just go south. Not the 25 to 50 is probably the first.
Yeah. From a financial perspective, and they'll run their number from a financial perspective. I think that would be the smartest one to do, because they can get the most amount of units out of that. You know, so they've got more than one way in now, and they don't have limits, right? But if they went over the tracks, I would only do that in their shoes if there was no other connection of the river, and I needed to get some cash.
It's just 3 patterns.
That winds up being the UDOT. They'll just have to rebuild it.
You mean so. They built the, front. And then you got to rebuild the. It's entirely possible they build a portion of it or it's rebuilt, whatever, but chances are, because they're gonna wanna get access from that road. That highway wouldn't otherwise allow them to get access, and so get a frontage road in there, or at least you can provide connections in either direction. And when the highway comes through, they just bridge where everybody's. Yeah. Assuming it does, and if it doesn't, it's a really cool green bikeway.
Some that's a highway right, not, especially for established neighborhoods and, you know.
Yeah.
The highway comes through. It's everything more.
Yep, well, that's why we're planning with the highway, right? From the beginning, you're okay. Starting from the bottom. This highway's gonna be here. No, I'm very. I will, I see a lot of it. So. That's the thing, and this is one of the reasons why Black definitely doesn't want the highway going through theirs, because theirs is a little more organic from the center moving out. These guys are looking at it a little bit more. Hey, good chat with you. Yeah. These guys are looking more like they'll have some big plots out here and stuff like that. So, in some respect, using the highway is a little bit of a hard edge, but we don't want to get to the point like Salt City is right now between Rosa Park and downtown, where they're talking about bridges on the freeway side, so that they can actually down. That's a big conversation. Some people in Rose Park are like, we don't want to be down. The values will go through the roof if they are.
Question, yes, sir.
What's that? Good. We've got a meeting. Actually, I don't know. We did have a conversation with.
My daughter was, hey, where are you at? He's like, I moved soon. I was like, oh, whatever.
That's probably it, right?
Yeah.
I don't think this ever started recording.
Yep, there's.
I mean, otherwise.
I'm trying to say.
Well, there you go. And that's that belt. I don't know, I'm having cold.
Any more people would love that, right? Yeah. Van down by the river. Yeah. Van life. Come on over. Those people would bring that. By those, you know. Can I get you a water or anything? We've got some ice waters over there. My neighbor across the street lived in an RV and a campsite for the first 10 years of their marriage. They just barely moved across the street. Like,
Didn't I go to Dave's house?
I couldn't afford to buy it. That's been a rough time to buy it.
It got really expensive.
Yeah.
There are.
Do you want to do anything electronic on the screen, or do you want to just do that?
A lot of them are. They were talking about.
I'll pull up, I'll just pull up the aerial.
Something in there. So I used to walk them Saturdays.
Ready?
Go there.
Yeah, I was like,
You ready? This is another section.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's not gonna work.
Back on.
There we go.
We might get out of here by 10 o'clock, not working.
Oh, hang on, this is the next one. Let's talk about the,
Okay.
you're okay, talk about the town homes first?
You're supposed to
The
throw
hard
them
one
at
out of
it,
the way.
Casey.
Yeah.
Let's do the townhome project.
So, oh, that's an easy one for me. That's WS4. Yeah, all of this. Once we get back to. Hey, let's go. Take your conversations outside, we're going back to work. Thank you. We still have to listen to you. Sometimes we're getting this thing in order. No, it's him now. I'm gonna let him be the bad guy. All right, everybody ready? I wanna go home, man. WS4. Discussion regarding potential zone map amendment to rezone approximately 7 acres of property located at approximately 15 west, 2550 south. From A2 zone to R3A zone. Applicant is with us tonight. Charlie, you gonna preface this?
Yeah, give you just a little bit of, higher level view of what we're talking about. Well, I can't zoom any further than that. Okay, call that good. Gosh, maybe I can zoom in a little more. Where do we want to start? So the applicant is here. They want to explore the idea. This is Carson Jones with me. He wants to explore the idea of rezoning to R3A for a portion of property that's over in Suncrest Meadows, which is just south of 2550 South. Let me get you an image of where it is. So if I zoom out a little bit, you can see here's 4700 West, here's 2550. 2550 terminates there and goes into 5100, and that goes down to the new elementary school. It's this property here. Do you remember how many acres? 7, 8? Seven, about 7 acres here. Just to give you the context of it, general plan. I'm just gonna use my finger. So the future land use map shows 5100 and 2550.
Oh, now you broke it. Now you did it.
As a small community node, so mixed use commercial right at the inner part of the intersection with some mixed residential surrounding. And then outside of that, you've got just your standard residential or green space. The applicant's property is right about here. And from what I could tell, a little bit of it might have some of that orange clipping the northwestern corner of it. So Carson and I think we started talking about this with Steve, a couple of years back, yeah. And at that time, the conversation was how much of the general plan, I mean, we know that these are fuzzy lines, they're not survey level accuracy. You guys get to decide where the mixed use ends and where the single family starts, or sorry, mixed residential, which mixed residential still includes single family, by the way, it just also includes a variety of other options. So where it ends and where the single family exclusive starts when it comes to this property. We've only got one page, but I'm gonna hand that out and let you kind of see it as you pass it around.
Chair, can I throw something out there right now?
Sure.
So here's my problem. I get what the general plan says and I get, I'm a firm believer, we hear a lot. Well, I bought here and the property behind me is now developing. My problem with this was phase 4 of the, I think phase 4 of the existing subdivision. Everyone around it bought with the understanding that they were gonna have acre lots to win on this. I'm a hard no and will fight very hard to convince this will stay acre lots. Based on what, I mean, the perception, if I bought that property knowing what was coming behind me, it would be a different story if that was a vacant ground, nothing on the drawing board or nothing else. This was a phase of an existing subdivision.
Unless everybody in that subdivision approved.
Yeah,
I think we heard tonight that they don't.
but I mean, yeah, if you got everyone that come in there that supported that, maybe I'd feel different, but the way I feel right now.
I'm with you.
I completely.
This is a hard no, general plan might show it there, that's unfortunate because that's how it was already approved, so.
Can I play devil's advocate to your comment?
You bet.
That's what I always do. And I'm not saying I disagree with your comment.
If they'll put a school on that.
No. No, I'm fine with the school or, just a thought. Everyone in Western Weaver County was planning on something different than what they got in their backyard. Everyone had it zoned as an acre lot. That's the current zoning. So anytime we've rezoned everything out there, it has replaced the expectations of the neighbor. I'm not saying I agree with the plans going forward, but I'm a little shaky on that being the reasoning.
I agree with you 100% on the cases, other than this was platted. And is platted as a phase showing acre lots.
It's part of
That's
the
my
plan that
difference
they
there.
bought into.
Cause I agree with you 100%. We see that all over the place and we hear it a bunch, but we don't have control over it because it was an A, but it didn't show lot lines and everything else.
Mhm.
You go look at the sign on 4700 that shows this development.
Right.
It shows acre lots with lot lines going through there. And so that's why I'm a hard no on this because of that. And that's where I'm gonna stay with it.
It's one thing if we have something that is not developed yet, hasn't been sold to people under a certain circumstance or understanding. Yeah, and then coming back and changing before they've done anything. I think that's something to consider. But where you've already got a bunch of houses, really expensive houses, you know, to add to it. And then to have those people that bought into that system come in and have, well, now I'm gonna have a huge townhome or whatever, those developed in there. So personally, I would be upset if I bought into that and that's what it happened to be, because that's not what I bought into. I bought into something completely different. Now, if it's the property next to it, adjacent, whatever, that's a completely different development. It's not the one I bought into. That's just how life is. So I agree with Brennan wholeheartedly. I actually have another issue with this development and even moving on to other phases, and that's the fact that this phase isn't even complete. There's a road in there that's not finished. And that bothers me big time, because I feel like that's a problem for it's 2700 south. It's about 30 yards shy of where it should be. It just ends in the middle of basically somebody's
20 feet short.
It's more than that, but it's still not
20
finished.
feet.
But that was gonna be my question is what's you can see right there, what's the plan for that? Are we gonna finish that?
Need to be done.
I
Right
mean,
here,
Yeah,
this 20 feet right here.
it's more than 20 feet, I guarantee you. If that's 20 feet, then I can convince a lot of other things.
Yeah, that is,
We'll keep it clean.
that is, well, there's a bunch of other reasons around that.
So is it planned to be finished here shortly?
The
'Cause you
reason
got a
why
house there already.
it stayed the way it is has a little history behind it that I don't wanna get into tonight, but
Yeah, that's fine. Is it planned to be finished though?
no, that's where it ends.
That's where that road's gonna end for that resident that lives right there.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna approve another phase for somebody that doesn't finish a road that goes to the property line. I don't feel big finishes into the neighborhood. I'm extremely uncomfortable with that. I think a big part of our responsibility here is to protect the citizens, our neighbors that we have. And if I bought that house and I had my road that ended before the end of my property, I'd be very upset
Yeah,
on both sides. So it's two houses that it's affecting, and the neighbor, and the fact that it doesn't allow for the emergency issues that we have, like where's a fire truck they're gonna stop in front of their house.
Turn around.
yeah, there is no turnaround for one
I mean,
line.
I'm not saying it needs necessarily a turnaround, but it would make sense that you wouldn't end a gutter, right? And, I mean, it's right at the border of it's not even the end of their property.
Doesn't code make them, they gotta extend it to the property lines?
The current code, I don't know what the previous code says,
There,
have to look into it.
yeah, well, I'll go back and do a little research on that, but there's some.
Well, I mean,
Existing
personally, I'm
things
gonna have a hard time getting on board with any project, any extra phase. I don't know what our rights are that way, but when it really torques me when I have a developer comes in that hasn't finished a phase properly. Not that it's just it's in the works, it's just that you even said you're not even planning on finishing that. That, to me, that's insulting to the people that you sold to, that you're not gonna finish the
Well,
project.
I'm gonna go out and I will get back with you on that, just to make sure that it is what I think it is. And I think that it
Yeah,
is.
go out there and stand there and look at that house and say, would I want this to be this way if I bought this house from?
I'll get back with you on that one for sure, because there is some. Different situations on that road right there, the reason why it wound up like it is. But that is, I will get back with you tomorrow on
I
that one,
appreciate that.
cause there are, and I'll have. Be very happy to have that discussion with you.
Well,
Not
for
in
all
this
of us, I
setting.
think it's a concern for all of us, cause it's, I mean, that's our job is to, like I
Yeah.
said, protect the citizens, so.
It's not being completed as, I mean,
That's
stuff
not-
that's supposed to go to the lot line.
That is as per plan, that's as per approved plan, so that's not been completed, that is as per approved plan. So,
Cause the original plan shows a road ending like that.
Don't know, didn't even know it wasn't done, so
Yeah.
it's something I gotta
Can
look
you
at.
look at
Yeah.
that for me, please?
Yep. have to.
So I think townhomes are a stretch for sure, but is there any wiggle room for just a slightly smaller lot? I'm concerned about the cost of the lots right now not being Weber County.
I won't
Income
go for it,
friendly.
I have 1 acre or nothing for me.
Right there,
Okay.
especially on that one, I might consider something different going up to 4,700 on the next item. But that one there,
This one, no.
I'm 1 acre as it was sold.
It's not in the general plan either, is it? I mean, it barely touches it. It's like-
Yeah, I think there's just a little corner here, and I've got it overlaid, but I can't.
That's
seem to pull it
another
up
thing,
yet.
I mean, if it's not line general plan, we've already taken enough heat on considering anything for that, so.
Well, and that's why I say no townhomes, but the general plan says maybe 30 acre lots, and so that's, I was wondering if anyone's open to that.
So one thing I mentioned to Carson
That's
was
7 acres.
that the commissioners have asked us to provide an update to the general plan regarding the street corridors. So we'll be looking at 12th Street. You guys already know that. I can't imagine why we wouldn't look at 2550, especially with the amount of development that's gonna be going on out west and some possible connections here. I think it'd be a really good idea to do. I know what Commissioner Bolos's goal is that we look at any intersection that will be a primary intersection, collector and arterial streets, for what the future should hold or can hold for those areas. So, that'll definitely be part of the conversation.
Sarah, let me rephrase my response for you. I would consider if Carson was able to go to that neighborhood and every single resident within that neighborhood was okay with it, and they signed something saying
Like
it was
what
okay. with
Jed
it,
said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then I would totally be okay with it,
Okay.
cause that's who it affects the most.
This
But
is your-
one
your guys'
resident,
hood,
one
so-
house says no, then I would say no.
Okay.
Personally, but y'all have your own vote.
so let me give you a little bit of history on how this even came about in the first place. So, when we first were starting this phase, I get up there and we're all about 200 feet deep in lot widths. So we have 6 lots in phase 4. I was trying to get down to 8 lots in phase 4. So I was trying to shrink the plats from 200 feet, or each lot from 200 feet wide down to about 125 feet wide. Still great big lot, still well over 30,000 foot lots. So I started talking to the planning commission, or the planning department, the staff, years ago, as Charlie said. We started talking years ago on what it would take to get some of this rezoned, and I started talking to some of the neighbors, and they were seeing a desire to maybe have it redone to phase 4, where it would cul-de-sac there instead of going out onto 2550, right? You know, right here, maybe having a cul-de-sac instead of just 3 lots on each side of the road. And as I got talking to staff, it was brought up of the general plan change, and that we should see what the outcome of that was. So over the course of many months, if not years, this was kind of forwarded by what could be, or what the general plan of the county is, or was turned out to be. So I would love to get it townhomes, but I mean, if it's a no, I'm okay with that. I was following the general plan and the direction of the staff. And so I would, you know, that's a little bit of history of how this came about. This isn't just me deciding that one day I wanted to arbitrarily change my 1 acre subdivision, which we talked for 2 years about maybe getting smaller than 1 acre when I started this back in 2016. Until I finally just said, okay, I don't have any more, let's go with 1 acre. So we went with 1 acre. So now my concern is we get more multi-million dollar homes out here. What are they gonna do when, you know, Walgreens is their backyard neighbor?
That's a different, for me, that's a different conversation.
So,
100%.
Yeah, that's.
no, and I understand, I understand, I just, you know, perpetuating a different. A different narrative. When we started this was never in the view in the general plan of Western Weaver County.
I appreciate that, perspective, Carson, but I mean, we get that all the time. We have somebody that bought into a neighborhood. And they picked a lot because they have some farmers field behind them and they love that.
Oh, yeah,
The next year,
happens every day.
development comes in, they're upset because that house is there now. Well, that's what I was saying earlier. That's life.
Yeah.
That's not the same development that they had already bought into.
Yeah,
That's different for those folks that spoke up in our meeting earlier.
sure,
So. It could be Walgreens. That could happen to me. I could have Walgreens next to me. It's
Yeah.
not what I want, but I'll have to.
oh yeah, it
figure
can
out
happen to
how
all
to
of us,
do
for
that.
sure, I agree. I absolutely agree.
Actually,
So,
probably pretty likely for you.
I mean, that's great. Put it on my property.
You could probably sell your corner too.
I might get a discount on prescriptions. I can get no.
So, okay, so let's say townhomes are out, I mean, I'm not sold, hook, line and sinker on townhomes, it was just suggested and that we have a discussion about it, so we've had the discussion and there's that, but what? So can we go back to my original plan that brought us here in the first place? A rezone into something other than 1 acre lots?
Is that the other version that we handed out?
No, that one's a smaller version. I don't know why I hate that version.
For me personally, it'd be the same thing. Go to your neighbor, all the people that you already sold to and make sure if they're okay with it, then I'd say, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
If not, then it needs to be 1 acre.
So,
It's still not the product they bought, even it's 3/4 of an acre.
yeah,
I mean, I think it'd be fine. We need more housing. It's the argument that Sarah had, but I don't live in that neighborhood either. It needs to be up to them. It changes the dynamic for their neighborhood, not mine.
Just thinking about opportunities and ways to help everyone win. How would it be to have this 7 acre piece be a park? In exchange for something else for the applicant, either on
the other,
maybe it's on 4700, maybe it's somewhere else.
We're back to the school. I'm so excited.
That's not a conversation
We'll have
for
it be
us
a
to
park
have, I
person.
don't feel, I mean, is it the Parks District, is it the place
Yeah.
for a park, is it?
Yeah, I
there's so much
don't feel
more
like we need to be negotiating things.
No,
right now.
it's, this one, I'm pretty dead set,
Same
build what it
expectation
was
issue.
phased to be, and that's how it comes out, I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of developers that come in and built years ago that would have loved to be able to build what the density is now, but
I mean,
things
Carson
change,
has a
things
side
evolve.
too. So if you go to your people, your customers you've already sold to and you have these ideas and they're gonna support it, then for me, I'm like, okay.
Might be a reasonable.
Well, I think, my opinion on that is if you come in with all the neighbors saying it's okay, then I think that we should. I mean, I'm okay with giving it a consideration. Now, whether it gets changed or not is another deal.
Yeah.
But, you know, I tend to agree with, Brett on this, is, you know, those people bought these, lots, and those houses are pretty expensive homes, right?
yeah, they are, absolutely.
Be beautiful homes. So, you know, what happens to the next field? To me, that's just whatever's gonna be built there, but this development that these folks bought into, I think that right now, my thought is with Brent, I don't think we should change it. And if you come in with everybody supporting it, then I think that we'd be okay with considering it.
Well, this one, I would just leave it just as is then. It's not worth the change. It's a common sense change, right? It's a common sense, especially when we're talking about the housing as it is now. It's absolutely a common sense change to have something that, you know, for zero extra effort, but moving some lot lines. It accommodate more families. it's definitely a common sense change, but if that's not the case, then I'll build it just as is. I don't care. It works for me. It did to start and it will now. So that's, it's not worth that kind of an effort. Perfect. When it's common sense in the first place, but it is what it is. They get bigger lots, so.
It's common sense for me to respect your clients, your customers, and give them what you sold them in the first place.
Well, I absolutely did. I absolutely gave them what they bought.
Same, so.
Yeah,
I'm ready for the next one.
so, yeah, I am too.
All right. I'm ready. Next item. Item number 5, discussion regarding the potential zone map amendment to rezone approximately 13 acres of property located approximately 2615 south, 4700 west from A1 zone to R115 zone. And Mr. Jones still the applicant. So I thought initially this was going to be half acre.
That is half acre. That's as it's platted.
Okay. Okay.
That has to change also there because UDOT's not gonna let me have 2 roads onto UDOT there. Our original plan, and here's another reason why this became an issue, because our original plan, as it was approved by the planning commission,
Should be 1 acre.
had a no access zone on 4700. When we came back in to start the approval process, the access off 4700 was required. That was part of a requirement
These were the.
by the planning department. So as we
You guys, sorry, you haven't seen that.
as we look at that, that is again, a thing that we have. Here's another couple of goodies.
Is that here?
That's the same thing, that's just, that's the one.
These guys.
So the one, Bren, you have in your hand, if I believe, right, if I'm correct,
Oh,
that's
okay.
the original.
The original, okay.
1 acre.
Show them all 40,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So if this is something, I would love to do this. Just right there as it sits.
With the 2 egresses on the
This
47.
right
Yeah,
here?
I would love to do that just as it was approved.
Oh, this.
Yeah,
So not the R115.
if it's gonna be an issue, I mean, if you guys don't like to have a half acre zone,
For me, it's this.
then let me go back to
It's
how it
not-
was, how it was
it's not as
approved.
Big of an issue, but it's still part of the same, it's a phase in the same development that was approved.
So.
Hold on, let's,
Yeah.
this is what he's asking for, this is what's approved.
Yeah,
Right. Okay.
Well,
So he's asking for smaller lot.
well, no, he said he'd do this too. Well, I would rather see this, I mean, we've done this on how many, 4700 is definitely a road that we don't wanna put more driveways on. So why would we wanna approve this one here that's now putting 4 more, regardless of the access?
I'm confused, you said you'd love to do the
Oh, yeah,
original
we can't
one,
have any facing
Right?
that road. They can't have.
the 1 acre, you'd love to do the 1 acre.
well, I would happily do the 1 acre, yes.
So what are we proposing, or what are we meeting on?
Well. Planning said I can't do that because I need a 4700 connected.
Okay.
Oh, we need that.
Why can't, this was approved.
This was approved.
Expired.
But can he get access just for the one road onto 4700? We want one secondary access 4700, but we don't want any houses facing 4700, and we don't want more than one road.
Yeah, UDOT will allow
And then-
an intersection every 660 feet. So I think you can even get 2 in there, given I pulled the lines, but I don't know that we want to on 4700. Same thing with 12th Street. 12th Street right at 12th and 4700. We're saying in both directions, we want to have, 1 to 2 blocks before another decent sized intersection. Maybe right in, right out kind of stuff, but not, we don't want people turning left over that. Because at some point in time, unfortunately, I don't wanna hurt anyone's feelings, but at some point in time, 4700 is gonna be at least a 5-lane road.
So we don't really want any access on the 4700 if we can, we don't need connectivity over here.
Okay,
can't have what he had before because it's expired?
We would ask for one connection, maybe not the two.
Even if it stays the A1 zone, nothing changes, acre lots. Why do we need the connection?
So the reason is because the code has changed and he's not vested under the old plan anymore.
Oh, and you need, how many lots does he have? It's 30, he has over 30 lots, so he needs a
He's got
secondary.
two.
But he's got two.
We have connectivity, we have everything we need. It just, with connectivity onto 4700. It just,
So Charlie, what would he need to do if he wanted to reapply and keep it 1 acre lots? He has to get on 4700. If he can't get on 4700, is there another option for him?
Well, he will be able to. So that southern road that goes east-west, that can connect.
But then we just say we don't want that.
The
we
very,
don't want it.
the very
We don't
south.
want it, let's just.
The 2700, right?
would come up to.
Yeah.
Is that correct, Carson? Or
You're gonna have to change the code.
yeah, 2700, well, I had it, my original thought was to come in right here. When I talked to UDOT, went over this, they would like it kind of closer to the middle. They wanted something right there in the middle, so
On 43.
on 47,
47.
yeah.
Well, yeah, but you're talking about lot 43 is what
Oh,
he means. You're talking about right here on lot.
yeah, on lot 43.
Lot 43, yeah.
So the minimum block standard.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Minimum block standard is no smaller than 500 feet, no greater than 1300 feet. From the intersection down to the southern corner of that, he's 1,000 feet. So there needs to be some, to meet the code, for us to be able to approve it, to meet the code, there's gotta be some connection within that span.
Doesn't it make more sense just to put a stub road going to the south? And then move that?
I already have that.
An additional one.
Yeah, it's not finished.
No, I mean up
No.
here, so go like
Up
between
here.
47
Up here.
and 46,
Oh.
put a stub road here,
Right.
then you're tying into 47 somewhere
Right here.
else.
Okay.
That's
Right
not-
here, that'll come across and eventually make its way up to 40.
It's not right in the middle of the community.
Well, let's just,
I don't know.
let's just go with what I have. This is what I would have done without the connectivity issue.
Yeah, but we already confirmed that that's not an option anymore.
I just say make that one connection. It's not.
So could we do half acre lot then? Then we're back to the half acre lot discussion.
Not with me. And I'm only one vote though.
Yeah.
But-
I'm with you, Casey, I don't. I guess it sucks that the code changed and we gotta put that stub in, cause I just assume it stay how it's
Well,
shown here.
But
so that component of the code, the 1,300 feet, the 500 to 1,300, that part didn't change.
Did it come from the fire department or what?
That was part of our ordinance all along. I do not know how this got approved without it being
Oh,
applied.
so 4700 major collector, minor collector,
It is a minor arterial.
minor arterial,
And major real quick though.
and it's going to go major. So because of its designation right now, we're allowed, like, don't we want limited access? It just, is the road itself just
Let's
not
Let's
labeled?
just to visualize 4,700 for the future. Think about Harrison Boulevard. That's probably the best thing to think about. Harrison has.
Redwood Road.
Now, I wouldn't say Harrison is the most ideal circumstance because Harrison has an intersection every between 300 and 400 feet on a lot of their blocks, but each block is 660 feet. So each one of those, even if you look at 2800 or 28th Street up by Ogden High School, it doesn't have a signal. It's not signalized, but it's still a four-way intersection.
It's a full intersection.
Right, and if you look at 25th
25th Street is
in
not.
Harrison, yeah, they just retrofitted that, so it's not the full, you can't go straight through it.
Right.
So it's the left-hand turn action that, well, it's crossing all that with the left-hand turn action that gets to be unsafe. And so, kind of like we did on Harbor Haven or Windmill West, whatever we're calling that one, north of 12th Street, north of 900.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember that one? Phil Holland was doing that one.
Mhm.
We were talking about a ham bone, right, in and out. right in, right out.
Yeah.
Handbook, is that what you called it? I can't remember. Anyway.
But I like.
Right in, right out.
Yeah, right in, right out without the ability to do a left. And
Okay.
we were pretty adamant that that occurred there. Now, again, that was with the rezone. And so definitely more density, more intensity. We could probably on this one, just stick with what the A1 zone calls for, which is at the very least having something between 500 and 1300. And if it's more than 800, there's gotta be a pathway, which I don't know if you wanna do that.
What about the people that bought into Suncrest Meadows? Because it was more private, not a 4700 access. Is that any issues with you?
So that's my question actually, is it appropriate to put access, you guys know the neighborhood better, is it appropriate to put access to 4700 in the middle of this community? Or what if we asked for right of way on the back lot line? Like a half road width on that, right here, so that they don't,
On the south edge.
on the south edge, so that if someone develops, we're not, you can
That'd be a good,
have that access
that'd be
there.
the 1300 group.
Oh, those are all built, sorry, that's the part that's built, never mind, that doesn't work.
It would if it was open.
Sorry, I don't have this context like you guys do.
I mean, it makes me a little nervous having an access there just because being that close to 2550.
I don't like the access on the 4700.
What's the, now the code is from here to here, we can't have that from the two ingress and egress?
No, it's on, just on 47. Oh, sorry, ask your question again.
blocks.
Maybe I didn't.
Well,
understand
why can't we use these two for ingress and egress?
You have two to the north.
Why do we need to access here?
that. Code, minimum
So-
code requirement.
Okay, so.
I can't tell you this is the right thing or the wrong thing. I'm just
This
saying.
is minimum code, huh?
So does the code get met though, to Jed's point, where this is not complete yet? Out to the road, and a cul-de-sac was talked about, but let's table that for a second, and let's say, what if this is connected to 2550? Does that make this meet the code at that point?
No, because the
Okay.
intersection from 2550 down on 4700, there has to be some kind of a block.
Oh,
This block
okay.
is too
Yeah,
big,
that
that's what we're
block's
worried
too
about,
big.
that
Yeah.
block's too big.
Yeah.
But is this block too big if it goes to, like, from here to here?
That works. If I can
You're
see what
saying
you're
out
pointing.
45?
She's pointing from here to here.
Sorry. from here to here.
Hold
Yeah.
on, right here to here.
Yep. That would work. But
I don't know.
there's
You
not a
can't,
street.
but,
I know I asked
yeah,
the
you
question,
can't put a
but-
street over here on this part right here, because it's too close, I'm sure it's too close to the
It's too
intersection.
close to 2550.
So only other option, because I don't wanna.
Oh, it's a
appear-
halfway.
So everything's built except for phase 5, right?
Yeah, and then.
And yeah.
And the non-town home.
So we put a pathway between the lot and it's done.
There we go.
Build it as it is.
Sorry. Actually,
Come on.
well, I was,
Some glitch somewhere.
yeah, I was gonna, yeah, find a loophole. Hang on, let's see here.
Well, okay,
So down to,
They really need to remember, put damn heat on in this building.
No.
from here,
Oh, I more roots.
Okay, look, Charlie's telling you stuff, look up there.
Oh, okay.
it's already that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
get
it is
some.
already that time.
Yeah, summer we cook because they turn the air off, and the winter we freeze.
So from 4700 down to this line right here
Mhm.
is 1300 feet. So perfect, at the longest it could be is if there was a road here, but you got things going on right here. And so
Ain't that
they could
a-
put a road there and then a
Would we
pathway.
prefer a road down there anyways, because it's a quarter section line?
Yes,
That's where the actual master plan for roads is. There's no master plan for road connecting right there, but
so what are you talking about, Charlie? Coming across?
so it's actually from here to
Yeah.
right there is 1300. So the maximum it could be would require a
Right
road
there.
right there on that section line.
Okay.
That's why we.
But it has to egress into the subdivision. Then the next
Actually,
question
it
is,
doesn't necessarily have to, but it would have to at some point connect at
To-
least 1300 feet, within 1300 feet.
which would put it to here,
Mhm.
and so it'll probably come past
Do
that,
you own this house?
okay?
no, I don't own that house.
So,
Well, what, if the maximum's here, why don't we just leave it for this side of the road? For the next piece?
for here, yeah.
Yeah, so he doesn't need more in there.
But now the question is, if it's not connected or not usable with the amount of lots that are in here, doesn't there have to be two egresses?
Mhm.
Okay, so this would have to be finished.
There's
No,
already
there is
enough
two.
lots in there, but there's-
No,
He
it's
would
not
have-
finished yet.
He would have to finish that.
He'd have to
phase
finish
4.
this out,
Yeah.
because this isn't a complete road.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Right, so I don't have too much problem with that. If this gets finished out to here, and this happens here. Cause
Actually,
that's how
that's-
this was originally planned.
Yep, and that's a great idea, cause
I
this,
see how it got passed now, Charlie,
this driveway right here,
because you're planning on the property next to
possibly.
having the egress.
Yeah, that's possibly true. This driveway right here is in the long run intended to be a roadway. When we were working with this landowner, it's been years, 10 years or so ago. The intention was they got a flag lot with the intention being when they go to redivide in the future, they'll put that section line road in here, which will tie right into here. You guys have seen this one here. We've been talking about how to cut a road in through here because they want to divide, and get a few lots out of that. So that would actually make for a really good connection if it followed the southern property line. The only challenge
Didn't
is
they just build a house right there?
right here,
No. Up on that piece of Gibson's,
this one or this one,
right where you want that road to tie into that cul-de-sac.
right here. There is a house right there.
No,
But-
they built one on that other lot, I'm pretty sure, didn't they?
There,
You'd have to show up on this because
shouldn't be
the house that
anything there.
Rick built's been there for a while
I
now.
thought they just built another one.
They've been asking to redivide and put a house there, but to my knowledge, there isn't one there. And it's not subdivided. You'd be able to see the subdivision on this. But it does put that road responsibility on this landowner and that landowner when they're fully on these two landowners, when they're ready to divide it. I mean, that's okay.
For half a road width.
Say again.
It's really hard because the other one hasn't built yet, but can we escrow for half a road width at this point?
If we escrow for half a road width, it's because the road will go in and
we
we get the
can't,
rest
there's
of
no
the
mechanism
escrow
for it,
back.
right?
Yes. So let's talk about flexibility. Through a development agreement, we can make a legislative decision. We'll have to have a public hearing, and we're making a brand new rule that applies only to this property. Which if you want to do that, we could say you could do this with a development agreement. You could do that.
Half a width,
But
unfinished.
fire will definitely tell you that they need two existing ways out. And I don't think.
They don't have it.
So
You don't have one.
if you
Right here.
think about Winston Park a little bit, remember
I
how
don't think we can go on shadow roads, so I'm totally against that.
on what?
Shadow roads that may or may not come.
Oh, right, that's,
Oh, no, it'd have to
It'd
be
have to
written
be
into
built
the
before.
agreement that these go through. Well, this one does exist, this one doesn't,
Yeah,
it's not finished
this
out
one
here.
isn't.
the issue with those two roads is the exact opposite of what we're talking about. For fire, they're too close together.
Oh, so they don't count because they're too close together.
Which, by the way, Winston Park is in that situation, the master plan that we approved for Winston Park, we got those roads a little bit too close, so they're probably gonna have to move one of the roads exiting onto 1800, just for context. But we could work on our development agreement to figure out some other point of egress.
But are you saying since these are too close together and it won't pass the fire marshal's requirements, then this would have to be able to be used?
Or down in here, there's gotta be another way.
So now which way do you want to do it? Because if that's the case.
If you want me to go out on 4700, I need a rezone. That's all there is to it. It just doesn't pencil otherwise. You're gonna have to have a decel lane there. You're gonna, that's how it was approved. That's why the design was made. And this approval didn't happen overnight. This approval was 2 years in the making. So we went through and through and through this design right there till there was no more energy left to go through, and that's what we settled on. So if now you're saying I have to take out a lot there that is gonna make this thing lose money with the cost of construction and everything it costs to do a decel lane and the turn lane on UDOT, then we have a problem. I mean, that's a big problem.
We've got the street connectivity incentivized subdivision, which we can do, but that's not, We have to do a development agreement because that's still too wide of distances between intersections, but that would get us some pathway connections between lots. What a street connectivity incentivized subdivision does is it takes your gross area and divides it by the minimum acreage, so 40,000 square feet. It basically allows you to get the same number of lots that you would have otherwise gotten, while still putting the road infrastructure in that the county's asking
Yeah.
for. So maybe that's an option. We run that through with a development agreement.
Well, what it kind of comes down to is it's really out of our hands, because right now it's not approved and it's illegal.
Right.
So that really doesn't fall on the planning commission.
Exactly.
That, and if I'm wrong here, please, somebody correct me. So there's not a decision we can make, other than we can say we can work with it, but the experts are gonna have to give us the information to work with.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at.
And right now, we're not illegal because we don't have more than 30 lots in there. So,
That's not what I mean by illegal. What I mean is if you go, you can't develop this phase. Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong. You can't develop this phase because it is not approved. So what I mean
Well,
by,
my next
what I
phase
mean
is
is,
phase
what I
one.
mean is that we can't approve that because of the fact that you have to have that other egress in there.
yeah, which would be phase 4.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
that's
I'm
one
not
that-
telling you to stop
yeah.
what you're doing. I'm just telling you
Yeah.
that we can't do anything with phase 4 here, or
Five.
phase 5. Because something has to be worked out for us to work with. We have nothing here that we can work with.
Well, I heard if you don't have 30 in phase 1, 2, 5, and 3, we don't need to.
Say again?
No,
We
1,
don't
2,
need
and
any
3, I don't
He's-
have 30 in.
He's
We're
going to
still-
need it
in
at some
phase
point
4,
in
we
time
will.
if he wants to
Some
develop
point.
that last
Yeah.
phase.
Oh, I thought you were just after this one, from
No,
hook or crook, I didn't know.
Now, since it's going up to 47 lots,
So permanent dead end, you can get up to 15. Over 15, you have to have a secondary egress. It can be an emergency egress that doesn't meet full street standard, but it has to be there. And there has to be a perpetual maintenance plan for it, so an HOA or somebody to take care of it. And then you can go up to 30, and then you can't pass 30 until that egress either meets full street standard or another egress has been provided.
so this got way more complicated.
I thought it was gonna be the easy one, man. I thought it was perfect, the
Well,
perfect one to follow up on.
It's because it expired, that's.
Yeah, right, and that's exactly it.
Oh, yeah, so whether or not it met the code at the time of its creation, I don't know. But the county did approve a preliminary plat for it, so we would have been obligated to approve a final plat for it.
right,
But now it's expired, so we can't.
Right.
Are you 100% sure it's expired? I thought we've had everything within a year.
We can go back. and
Yeah,
check.
we're gonna have to check on the expired. it's not my understanding that
Then you
it's
get
expired.
That's the way it is, right?
nothing to do it.
Yeah,
You got 2 years.
if that was approved
You
that
have 2
way.
years.
Yeah,
and
so
it's
we've been
less
doing
than-
this, cause I just,
There you go, Carson.
Yeah.
Make sure it's not. If it is,
Maybe-
then
then we'll just do that.
Maybe
I'm
if
good with
it's
that.
approved. And these phases have been active, there might be something to link it to this where you don't have to do it.
Yeah,
and then does he, in order to start this phase, does he still have to come back to us?
Yeah.
If it was already.
for prelim. It's gotta go through the
Just so you
approval
know.
process again.
I'm still not gonna be happy with that.
Sorry, let me rephrase. If it is not expired, if the preliminary plat is not expired, they can go straight to final and state code says they go to us.
Okay,
But if it is expired, they gotta meet all
They're gonna do that.
current codes and come back to you guys for preliminary.
I'm
approval.
still concerned about 2,700.
I'll get back with you on 2,700. I mean, I'll
Really, this.
let you know exactly why 2,700 is.
Neither
the
of
way
them
it
are.
is.
Casey, if you look at them,
What's that?
Okay.
But neither of them
they're not built to the property line.
on 2,700, and what's the other one you're meaning? Just the one that,
4850 west.
well, that's the one that you still gotta build, right?
No, it falls short. The sub road going to the south falls short. Not quite as far as the sub road going to the west.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So, yeah, they both are. Yeah,
No, I mean, wait,
that's
gentlemen, are you
that's a
on next?
concern for both of them then.
Well, I think we got this one beat to the push, let's go.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we've got a little homework. We're gonna get some more information. All right.
We done?
I'm gonna call for a hearing. He just wanted to hang out with us. Okay.
Right, we're done.
He wanted to thank.
Essentially, like street block.
So then I'm gonna
See ya.
immediately submit for phase